Thank you. Good morning. I am Ward 4 Councilmember Janeese Lewis-George, Chair of the Committee on Facilities. It is 9:45 a.m. on Thursday, January 29th, 2026, and we are holding this performance oversight hearing for the Department of General Services via virtual-only format, via Zoom due to the snowstorm and weather conditions. Today, we'll be hearing from public witnesses only, and government witnesses will testify and answer questions during another hearing on Thursday, March 3rd. This hearing is also being broadcast live on my website at janeeseward4.com/live, as well as the DC Council's website. Here's some brief reminders for witnesses participating virtually. All witnesses participating in this Zoom webinar are currently listed as attendees. When it's your turn to join a panel for testimony, I will call your name and a member of my staff will promote you to be a panelist. If you wish to activate your video while you testify, you need to click the bottom in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen that looks like a video camera. If you have any technical difficulties during the hearing, please notify the staff either via the Q&A function in Zoom or by sending an email to facilities@dccouncil.gov. Public witnesses from bona fide organizations will be given 5 minutes to testify. Public witnesses from the same bona fide organizations will be given 3 minutes, and all other public witnesses will be given 3 minutes. When your time is up, I ask that you please conclude your remarks so that we can stay on schedule. I ask witnesses to share their pronouns if you're comfortable doing so before beginning testimony, so my colleagues and I do not misidentify you. All testimony and pre-hearing documents that have been submitted are available now on the council's hearing management system. Witnesses are reminded to please submit a written copy of your testimony for the record by either uploading your testimony to the council's hearing management system or emailing facilities@dccouncil.gov. The record for this hearing closes at 5 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th. But my ask is if you could have all your testimony uploaded before we have our government witnesses on Thursday, March 3rd. Therefore, I can use your testimony to reference when asking questions of the director. So the final deadline is March 19th, but if you could get it to our committee by before Thursday, March 3rd, that would be most helpful. As you all know, DGS is one of a handful of agencies that almost all district residents are affected by on a daily basis. From schools to senior centers, recreation centers to parks, big and small, from municipal office buildings to shelters, fire and police stations to correction facilities. DGS is charged with the difficult and utmost important task of building and maintaining the physical indoor and outdoor spaces residents spend a great deal and sometimes all of their time. I'll have more of an opening statement during government witnesses hearing after I've had the opportunity to review DGS's responses to the almost 200 oversight questions I will be receiving in a few weeks. But for now, I'm looking forward to hearing directly from district residents, employees, and advocates on the conditions of our government properties, what DGS is doing well and needs to continue, and what DGS needs to do better to ensure every resident enjoys safe, healthy, accessible, and functional facilities. Given the large number of witnesses, I may not ask every witness or panel questions, but I encourage everyone to highlight what specific information you like to DGS leadership to know today and what information you'd like DGS leadership to be ready to share during their hearing on March 5th. With that, I'd like to recognize and thank any colleagues who are here. Seeing none at the moment, I will move on to panel 1. I invite our first panel of public witnesses, Njeri Jenkins, David Trigus, Jackie Carter, Taylor Terry, Keith Ellingsworth, Devonna Tucker, Zachary Love, Darylyn Strother. Okay. I see Njeri Jenkins, you're first. You may begin your testimony.
Good morning, Councilmember Lewis-George, members, and staff of the Committee on Facilities. My name is Njeri Jenkins, and I am the Out of School Time Advocacy Manager at DC Action. I support the Out of School Time Coalition, which represents dozens of community-based organizations providing high-quality youth development and enrichment programming to thousands of young people across all 8 wards. OST providers are essential partners to DCPS and multiple district agencies. These programs play a critical role in keeping students safe, engaged, and supported beyond the school day, particularly for families who rely on consistent, affordable programming. To operate effectively, many OST programs depend on reliable, predictable access to school buildings and other district facilities. As a result, DGS's systems, particularly those governing facilities access, security, and custodial services, directly affect whether OST programs can operate as intended. When these systems break down, providers face disruptions that undermine program stability and strain limited resources. Across the OST coalition, these challenges are recurring and systemic, affecting providers across wards, facilities, and program models, and point to a need for stronger accountability, clearer processes, and improved oversight. First, OST providers need reliable and timely access to DGS managed facilities. Providers regularly experience delays in consistent guidance and difficulty resolving issues related to building use agreements, including approvals, amendments, and renewals. When these issues are not addressed promptly, programs are forced to delay start dates, reduce enrollment or services, or divert staff away from youth engagement to administrative troubleshooting. These disruptions undermine program quality and weaken the district's overall OST infrastructure. Second, DGS billing, custodial, and security processes continue to create significant barriers. Providers frequently receive invoices that are unclear, delayed, or difficult to reconcile. In some cases, providers are billed for services they did not request or receive, with no clear or standardized process for disputing charges. For nonprofit organizations operating on fixed grants and tight margins, this lack of transparency creates serious financial risk. Providers also report ongoing custodial challenges, including unclear coverage, inconsistent space preparation, and limited transparency around expectations and costs. Together, these issues highlight the need for greater accountability and modernization within DGS's after-hours facility systems, including clear points of contact, predictable timelines, transparent billing, and consistent standards across sites. For additional context, please review my full written testimony, as well as firsthand provider testimony from organizations such as the Washington Urban Debate League and Higher Achievement, which further illustrate how DGS-related challenges affect programs on the ground. The OST Coalition urges Council and DGS leadership to take actions to improve transparency, streamline processes, and strengthen accountability within DGS facilities operations. These improvements will reduce administrative burden and better support the OST program serving students and families across the district. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Next, we will hear from David, Washington Urban Debate.
Louis George. My name is David Trigo. I'm the director of the Washington Urban Debate League. We are a nonprofit that serves more than 100 schools and 1,000 students with debate programs that build self-confidence, that can add more than 100 points to an SAT score, and can improve things like grades, civic engagement, and more. In the modern zeitgeist, I'll also point out that debate is a great tool to combat chronic absenteeism. Research from last year shows that urban debaters attend school 66% more than their peers. We use DGS facilities all the time, specifically for renting schools across the city for weekend competitions. My testimony will second the jury's and focus on this narrow slice of the real estate office. I'd like to share a few quick stories from the fall that highlight the urgent need for policy and technology reform and the use of facilities by external nonprofits. First, the Washington Urban Debate League was awarded the ability to host a prestigious qualifier to the National Tournament of Champions, the most competitive debate program for high school students in the country. This would be the only qualifier in the nation hosted at a Title I school and one of the few at a public school, period. This should be a showcase event for the city at large, and it was on track to be until we had to move this national competition with hundreds of competitors flying in from across the country, originally scheduled at McKinley Tech, to Basis DC with less than 24 hours notice. Why? Because despite clear approval from the principal months in advance, the ROTCs being on standby to provide volunteer assistance, welcome banners ordered, catering set up, the paperwork ended up sitting on some facility manager's desk and never got turned in. This is an unfortunately common occurrence And while we enjoy working with our charter school partners, it creates huge equity issues if they are the only reliable partners for facilities in the city. Second, we've had 3 tournaments in the last year where we've asked for a specific number of rooms. That number was approved by the principal, and then the day of the event, the facility manager has called the custodial staff and overridden our request for a smaller number of rooms when we already have hundreds of children on site. When asked, the custodians say, look, I know you have a contract, but I have to deal with this person tomorrow and not you, so I don't care. Lastly, there is a huge inequity in how schools make themselves available, creating a 2-tier system that isn't equitable or fair. Please see my written testimony for some more details on that front. Having talked with Ms. Cobb in the real estate office, there are 3 clear solutions. Number 1, digitization, which she says is coming but cannot come fast enough. Take a credit card and at least move into the 20th century, if not the 21st century. Second, give Ms. Cobb more staff. There used to be 6 veteran employees in that office pre-COVID. Now they have 2. And lastly, let's change the policy or at least make it more clear so that public facilities can be rented as advertised by the public and not handed out on whim. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your thorough testimony. Next, we will hear from Devonna Tucker. If you would accept your panelist link. Great. Devonna, if you're ready, you can unmute and begin your testimony.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, let's see. I wrote it down. I just have to find it. I'm sorry.
All good.
Okay. So it says, hi, my name is Devonna Tucker, and I'm the owner of I Am Growing. I am a proud vendor at Eastern Market. For the past 4 years, I've been at Eastern Market. Has been more place. It has been more of a business. I'm sorry. Let me slow down. It has been more than a place of business for me. It's been a community. I truly love being a part of Eastern Market, connecting with people of all walks of life, and for people that have just moved to the area or people that are coming back. I love being the person who helps someone choose their first plant or teaches them how to care for them with confidence. Watching customers discover their joy of growing something is a rewarding part of what I do. My business also offers paint your own planter experience, and I truly love seeing customers sit, create, and laugh and make memories while expressing themselves through art. Eastern Market has been a beautiful, Eastern Market feels like a beautiful puzzle, and I'm just a piece of it. The vendor community is supportive and great. We help each other out. I'm right there on the outside at CN7, so I'm a big part of the outside outdoor community with the produce people and people that sell the produce. We help one another, we share knowledge, and we celebrate each other's growth. This is a sense of collaboration. This sense of collaboration is a part of what makes this place so special. Each year being at the market, my business has grown stronger, and I appreciate this community and how it's grown even more. I am thankful for continuing serving my customers and contributing to the vibrant spirit that Eastern Market brings in such a beautiful place. That's all that I have.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Zachary Love. Good morning.
Thank you. Chair and Councilmember Lewis George, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Zach Love, and I work in the Marion Berry building at 441 4th Street Northwest. I'm testifying today because, as you know, the building has many long-standing serious safety hazards. For example, elevators routinely trap staff and members of the public, and in some cases have fallen with people inside of them. The ninth floor terrace floods unless sandbags are in place, and we recently had some of the flooring replaced because of years of persistent water intrusion. Roaches have fallen from the ceiling onto employees, and throughout the building, there are water-stained, loose ceiling tiles and cracks in the drywall. But the most important issue and most dangerous issue is this. Our fire alarm system has been inoperable since at least May 9th of 2025. On that day, during what was believed to be a false fire alarm, the alarm system never sounded on the 9th floor. Staff only evacuated because another employee told us to. I reported this to building management on May 13th, and since then, instead of repairing the system, the district has implemented a fire watch, a team of people that watch for fires manually and that DC Fire and EMS defines as a short-term emergency measure for unsafe buildings. Yet the fire watch has not provided the protection it is supposed to. Members of the watch are not consistently present and do not cover all hours at which the building is occupied. I have personally documented their absence on the 9th floor during 13 routine breaks in January alone, and despite being a 24/7 building, they are not there during all hours of the day. They are also expected to monitor 2 floors each, and they cannot access locked suites without being let in. And most concerning of all, there is no clear notice to staff or the public that the alarm system does not work and that the fire watch is, in effect, the alarm system. On June 3rd, a staff member accidentally created an intense smoke event in a break room. The smoke was so heavy that industrial fans were needed to ventilate the area, and nearby staff were evacuated. The alarms did not activate, and the fire watch never responded, despite concerns from staff about the presence of a fire somewhere in the building. I raised my concerns again with building management the next day. Since May, the seriousness of this threat has been minimized. I've been redirected, misled, and in some cases outright deceived about the operability of the building's life-saving equipment. I've raised concerns with my agency's management team, DGS, the Office of Risk Management, OSHA, and even the council. Yet the fire watch remains in place indefinitely with no clear plan or timeline for repair. Given these persistent deficiencies, I ask the council and DGS, can staff and public services in the building be relocated until the alarm system is fully repaired? Can DGS provide a clear public repair timeline and list of deficiencies impacting the alarm system? Can signage be placed on the building's exterior notifying the public that the alarms are inoperable? Can a 24/7 independently monitored fire watch be installed until relocation or repairs occur? What is the cost of the fire watch to the district? And has the fire watch been incorporated into the building's emergency response plans? Thank you for your attention to this matter of public safety. I look forward to the prompt full repair of the alarm system and welcome your questions.
Thank you so much for your thorough testimony. Next, we will hear from Darylyn Strother.
Hi, good morning. My name is Darylyn Strother, and I'm a vendor, an outdoor vendor at Easter Market. I've been vending there for the past 2 years. I'm representing my farm. It's called Chateau Coco. We produce produce as well as honey, and I'm the actual beekeeper. During my time at Easter Market, it's been a consistently positive place to do business. It's one of the most well-organized markets that I've actually worked with. During this time, I've worked with other farmers markets, and I will say Easter Market is one of the most organized ones. The operations are clearly structured, and I would say expectations for you as a vendor are pretty well defined. This creates a professional environment that supports both vendors as well as the customers. A lot of the communication from leadership is really clear, consistent, and timely. For example, the snowstorm last weekend, we received an email from the team well before the snowstorm, and we're kept informed and we feel included just in general in the broader workings of the market. And this transparency builds trust and confidence with both the vendors, again, and the customers. I would say overall, Eastern Market fosters a strong and respectful vendor community. I'm actually next to Devonna at the market, who spoke a little bit earlier. And I've enjoyed working alongside the vendors at the market, and it creates a sense of community. And then as far as the business, it creates consistency and professionalism at the market. For farms like mine and small businesses. And my overall experience has been a positive one with leadership and with the vendors at the market. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I want to check and see if Jackie Carter or Taylor Terry or Keith Ellingsworth who are part of this panel are here before I move to questions. Okay. All right, I don't see any of them here. And Jerry, thank you for your testimony. It sounds like one of the things that's important is just really getting DGS to in the process of monetizing and digitizing in the permit process refunds. I appreciated you and David's both ways in which to do that. Have you got a sense from DGS? Because we've heard that they were gonna modernize and digitize for a while now. Have they given you all either one of you a timeline for when that modernization or digitization would take place?
Soon.
Okay, that's the closest you've gotten. Okay. And as far as communications with staff on the ground, the schools, et cetera, how usually are who's usually the one having the communications, and where is that breakdown usually happen?
Jerry can speak for some of our other OST partners, but in our experience, we follow the form that you have to get signed by the principal and then sent to DGS. So that's kind of the operation that we do. We go to the school leadership and say, "Can we borrow your building?" They almost universally, except for point 4 in my testimony, say sure. And then it's the facility folks who either don't turn the form in or
Got it.
will resist and like blatantly override the contracts on site when we don't have any recourse. I think the modernization and digitalization would improve that because nothing would get lost on someone's desk because you can click a button and e-sign and move on, which would make everyone's job a lot more efficient and easier. And B, it would also allow us to have more clear parameters to say, look, this is a city contract. It's not just a piece of paper that somebody may or may not have signed somewhere.
Yeah.
To add to David's point, also there have been those same complaints in terms of from other OST providers around the breakdown with where the breakdown's happening through the process, as well as that like point of contention coming from like DGS around the security billing issues.
Understood. And how does this impact your out-of-time school programs as far as programming, as far as expenditures? Like how does this impact your ability to program and the students' experience, which is the most important piece of enriching our students through our out-of-time school programs?
Appreciate the question. It is really annoying and really hard. The inconsistent billing processes mean that we budget for, based on previous year projections and all that good stuff. And then sometimes the financial hit for a single event is going to be 3 times what we expected it to be. So there's a huge financial discrepancy, which has spillover effects on our budgets, which are stretched. They're stretched thin in a good way because we have a lot of kids who want to debate this year. The facility problems are really, really unfortunate, and you'd think that folks who work at schools would have more sense of this. We choose which schools we rent because they're big enough for the events we're hosting, shockingly. That's not arbitrary decisions. We pick bigger schools because they are big enough. So when we suddenly lose 30, 40, 50 rooms that we expected and built our programs around, we have a cafeteria full of children just sitting around wasting their Saturday, or we're building, classrooms or places for them to go in the hallways because we can't actually use the rooms. And, they're sitting there, they're perfectly safe, perfectly usable rooms that just got locked because still haven't gotten a good explanation.
Yeah.
So, it makes kids not want to come back. It makes volunteers feel like we're disorganized and that, we're not an organization that they want to spend their time with when, we've got a great plan that going into the day that blows up when we have to redo all of our room assignments, 20 minutes before they're supposed to go out.
Yeah.
So if it's a very unfortunate struggle that really impacts the experience of students, teachers, and the volunteers that make it all work, as well as, making my staff want to tear their hair out.
As well as other stories like these across the coalition, and also like reports of staff just having to be stretched too thin, having to figure out how to do administrative work that they haven't had to do, and just not having enough staff in general being a separate issue, but now having to have them do several other things when they're supposed to be focused on programming.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate, we will follow up with DGS on these questions. I appreciate you all for the work you do for our young people. And really grateful for that work, and look forward to being continued partners as we finish out this oversight season and go into budget season as well. And so I look forward to staying in conversation with you all. And David, I just want to say a big shout out to you and thank you to you and your wife for shoveling out a senior in Riggs Park. Really appreciated that work, in addition to all the other work you do. Appreciated it.
Appreciate
Zachary, I wanted to come to you. I used to work at 441 for 3 years. And so um, I don't know how that building is still functioning, and people are functioning in it. Obviously, several offices have moved. It was when I was there, was the Attorney General's office. OAG was placed there, and we've heard a number of issues. I thought we had gone out to deal with the elevator issues, and we were under the understanding that those were fixed. But you're saying in this past year, there's still been elevator issues.
I think someone was stuck in the elevator as recently as the week before the snow came. So there's still
Wow.
elevator problems, but there's also, I mean, the fire alarms don't work and they haven't
Yeah,
since at
absolutely.
least May of last year.
Absolutely. I'm gonna reach out to the fire chief, Chief Donnelly, about the fire watch and the broken fire alarm system. Because I'm not sure if you all are even allowed to be in the building with the fire deficiencies that are currently happening there. Not to displace you, but to, want to make sure that the fire chief is aware um of what are potential fire and safety violations that are
Well, my understanding is that in order for us to have a fire watch, DGS would have had to have submitted a plan or would have otherwise been involved in the creation of a plan that is approved by the fire marshal for the fire watch, because they're the ones that approve them to be here and do the inspections to ensure that they're allegedly where they're supposed to be and like at all the hours that the building is staffed. But I think something, and all of the oversight council members for facilities have been included on the litany of emails that I've sent about this. So I am the name from your inbox, and I apologize if that has become overwhelming. But they're leaning really heavily into the provision of the fire code that allows essentially a fire watch has to be created if there's an hour or an outage that extends for more than 4 hours in duration.
yeah.
And there's no upper limit. So it's just perceivably, I could open a commercial use building in the district, not have fire alarms, and as long as there was this plan approved by the fire warden or the fire marshal, I could just go in perpetuity with never having fire alarms. That is how it has been framed to me, and that's the justification for us having now gone without fire alarms since at least May of last year. I don't know how long they were just sitting there not working until we had this near miss event. So
Okay. And then you also mentioned flooding and pest, and um, how does this all affect you all as district employees and your ability to do your jobs, from the elevator to the flooding to the pest to the fire and safety?
Yeah. Well, I think in addition, there's obviously a very clear safety issue presented by some of these problems, right? So it's like they had to do a partial flooring replacement over on the side of the floor where there was flooding. I imagine that because of years of water intrusion, there was mold exposure. There's not fire alarms in the building, so if a fire did start, there is the risk that someone would be injured. But those are the obvious things, right? I think that there's an impact, most importantly, to staff morale. It's like we have been brought into this building under the um, kind of marching orders that the government's open, and I'm really happy about that. I like coming to work. I like working for the district. I love the residents we get to serve, but it's fire alarms and basic occupational safety are a cost of doing business. And if it is true that we are the hands and the feet of district government, we are entitled to a minimum level of safety. So I think that there's a morality concern that is perhaps not as easily identifiable, but is just as important as the safety issues presented by the building.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I appreciate, continue to send the emails and continue to advocate, but I'm gonna try to get to the bottom of the fire issue today because to me that is just it's such a safety hazard and um I'm not quite sure whether how they would be able to get such an exception, but we need to do something. And so I'm gonna reach out today and figure out what we can have happen in the immediate and then come up with a real plan around the entire issue. Elevators, we was an issue that we thought was resolved. So it's hearing that it's still a persistent issue is a problem. And so I appreciate your service to district residents. Thank you for your service to district residents, and thank you for being an advocate for you and your fellow district employees.
Thank you.
Devonna and Darylyn, first of all, congratulations on both being, small business owners and entrepreneurs. Was really happy to hear about your businesses and the work that you all are doing as vendors at Eastern Market. You both spoke really highly of Eastern Market. It's always great to hear when things are going well. I had a question about just how do you all as vendors report maintenance issues when they arise? And are you all kept in the loop on the progress of those fixes as well?
I can respond with my experience. If there are any like maintenance issues or whatnot, I have actually the market manager's numbers, so I just call them. I have a direct line or text them. And usually they respond immediately and they answer immediately.
Right. So it sounds like there's some consistency there across the board. Well, thank you. I look forward. I'm going to try to make it over there so I can patronize your businesses over at Eastern Market. So when the weather is better, I look forward to coming over and meeting you both. We're going to move to our next panel of witnesses. We have Eric Goulet, Ward 3 Representative, State Board of Education, Frida Edwards, ANC Commissioner, SMD SF06, Melissa Wires, ANC Commissioner, SMD 1D04, Devin Myers, ANC Commissioner, SMD 7D10, Sabrina Rose, ANC Commissioner, Single Member District 5D02, and Community Organizer with Empower DC. Sam Bonar, Policy Lead at the DC Community Wealth Builders. Mary Griffin, DC Community Wealth Builders. Imani Subain, Community Member, Community Wealth Builders. And Valerio Johnson, who's the president of the Hillcrest Community Association. I see we have Eric Goulet, who's our Ward 3 State Board of Education, and I believe the new Vice President of the State Board of Education. Congratulations, and good morning, and you may begin your testimony.
Much, Chairwoman Lewis George. I appreciate you holding this performance oversight hearing today. I'll just state for the record, I need to submit my written testimony to you. I wasn't able to get it over before the hearing, but we'll do so afterwards. And thank you very much for the warm reception here. I appreciate it, and we're excited to work with you on the state board. I wanted to testify today about 3 experiences I've had with DGS this year and put on the record the positive relationship that we've built with them. We're very grateful for the new dashboard that's up to be able to talk with parents and to transparently discuss work orders has been a real help for me. So I'm grateful for that. I also want to thank DGS for its communication with us. During the storm, we lost there's damage to the Janeese skylight area there, and we immediately found out about that. They alerted me to it, and they've been very transparent about letting me know about issues that may affect the school communities, and I'm extremely grateful for that. I'd like to thank the director and thank Michelle Loggins, who's their intergovernmental liaison, for always keeping the board informed about those issues as they come up. I also really want to thank DGS for its work on the staff renovations that are occurring at the State Board of Education. We had a very small space for our staff over at 441. They've been really helpful in working with our staff to build that out. Construction is underway now, and it looks to be finished soon within this year. And the staff has conveyed to me their appreciation for the work with DGS on that project. So that's been something that's been extremely positive. I just want to also put on the record for you, Chairwoman Lewis George, a couple issues that we'd like to continue working with you on here in Ward 3 that really aren't the fault of DGS because they can only build what gets funded. But there are things that are important to the communities that I represent. The first issue is making sure that we have space for all of our pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 classes in our by right elementary schools. That's been a big challenge just due to the overcrowding issues that we face. And it would be something that we would like to see as we've done universal pre-K in the city. The one area that we've left out is making sure that in schools where there's just additional space needed, that we provide that space. So I would love to work with you and your team on that issue. And then finally, the issue of trailers, just making sure that we're not using trailers as permanent education space. I look to Key Elementary School as a good example of this, where we've had trailers that came there, have been there for some time now, and really need to be replaced with permanent space. So what I'm going to try to do in my role at the board is to get a comprehensive list of all the trailers that we're still using in the city for educational space, try to see how long they've been there, and I would love to work with you and your committee staff on trying to see what we can do to ensure that students don't have to learn in trailers on a permanent basis. That concludes my written testimony for today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak at the hearing on behalf of the residents I represent in Ward 3, and I'm grateful for any questions you may have for me.
Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Sabrina Rhodes, ANC Commissioner, SMD 5D02, who's also a community organizer with Empower DC. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Wait a minute. Let me see. Video. Do my video have to be on?
It doesn't have to. It's totally your preference. But you look good, so you can keep it on if you like.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabrina Rhodes. I'm the community organizer with Empower DC here in Ivy City. Also, I'm the ANC commissioner here in Ivy City 5D02. The community has been waiting patiently for construction to begin on the Carmel Community Center. This patience has not been passive. It has been earned through years of meetings, revisions, advocacy, and trust placed in the process, which has been very long. Residents want this project to be completed, not just in drawings or renderings, but in real life. What is built here will reflect whether that trust was honored. This isn't just a building or project, it's our life. We sat in the Historic Preservation Review Board meeting on January 22nd, where the revised plans that you had mentioned before in another hearing, they revised the plans for the Carmel Center. And these plans were given by GCS Siegel and DLR Group and the team at DGS and DPR. The revised plans were passed with the exception of a few tweaks, and I'm waiting on some answers to a few questions that were asked, such as, would there be covered seating? Because we suffer from an urban heat island effect. When it's hot, it's hot. We get 10 to 20 degrees hotter. So in order for folks to feel comfortable, especially our seniors and the children, we need more covered seating on a site. Also, Wi-Fi for all. Will there be Wi-Fi that will reach to the entire community there? And capacity for the largest room for meetings and events. A DC public library space, just a small space just for books and resources, electrical outlets outdoors as well as indoors, just to name a few. With that in mind, Ivy City community needs to be clear moving forward. Greater transparency from both DPR and DGS is essential. And we haven't been getting that before. Too often it has felt as though the community has been left out of the process while time has dragged on. Meaningful engagement cannot stop once plans are drafted. Ongoing communication about timelines, changes, and decisions must be consistent and accessible so residents are not left guessing about the future of the project that we have invested so much in. The design and implementation are deeply important to us who will live with this building long after the construction workers leave. We have seen many facilities, as you heard, I'm sure, that are open with promise, but are forced to operate at half capacity because of systems not operating properly. That outcome will be unacceptable after all this effort. We are also asking for clarity on indoor amenities. Furniture must remain in the budget, which we were told before in the previous plans that furniture was going to be in a budget. If a tech lounge is included, it must be fully furnished with appropriate equipment. And just as importantly, there should be transparency around who select that equipment and whether community's voices are considered in shaping the space meant for community use. Safety is a recurring and non-negotiable concern in earlier plans for the Cromel site. The windows were specified as laminated glass. The detail matters. Laminated glass prevents shattering, protects people inside the building, and guards against UV degradation that damages interiors over time. The community needs confirmation that this commitment will remain in place, which we did talk about it in the Historic Preservation Review Board about the glass. Safety should never be omitted. Security is equally critical. A reliable security system must be installed to protect the building, the equipment, and everything the community has fought for to make this project real. Who's responsible for safety and security, and will those plans be included in the plan? The space represents Empower DC's 20 plus years of organizing, advocacy, and hope. It must be protected with the seriousness it deserves. And I will conclude finally, ADA compliance must be fully and thoughtfully planned out. During the community meeting, residents were very clear that accessibility cannot be treated as an afterthought. Indoors, this means braille signage, wheelchair accessible restrooms, and navigable spaces. Outdoors, it means designated handicap parking, safe pathways, and accessible entrances. Beyond the building itself, programming must be inclusive of people of all ages and abilities, because accessibility is not just about ramps, it's about belonging. In closing, Ivy City community isn't resisting the plan, we are obsessively protecting it. Thank you, and I'll be here for questions.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Sam Bonar, Policy Lead at DC Community Wealth Builders. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you, Councilmember Lewis George, and thanks for hosting this. My name is Sam Bonner. I'm testifying as part of the DC Community Wealth Building Coalition, an organization dedicated to creating economic well-being, increasing racial equity, and challenging entrenched attitudes about economic development and wealth concentration. We do this by shifting the district's development model towards community ownership, democratic governance, and locally rooted wealth. Put simply, we're a coalition interested in unlocking the economic power of collaboration and cooperatives. So I want to talk a little bit about the failure of our current economic development strategy. Throughout last year's debates surrounding the Rental Act, promoters consistently blamed tenants for the district's housing challenges. However, no one asked about many of the other real cost drivers, including rising interest rates, the political obstacles that prevent communities from getting what they need, or the barriers that mission-driven developers face in delivering on community priorities. Recent reporting from the Washington Post about the F. Kennedy building and the city paper about Cascade Park revealed how the district wastes public funds in obscure political processes that benefit well-connected developers. These costs of doing businesses are routinely ignored in discussions about solutions for deeply and permanently affordable housing, as well as other critical community needs like affordable grocery stores, local gathering spaces, and childcare centers. As you've said, Councilmember Lewis George, repeatedly, it ain't trickling down, right? Despite providing significant incentives and benefits, our current economic development strategy has failed. Major grocery chains refuse to come to East the River, no matter the incentives offered. Developers continue building the same types of housing, leaving us perpetually short of permanently, deeply, and family-sized affordable options. And they like to tout all the job creation they've done on projects, like on the coming RFK development, but failed to tell you how much each job the wealthy corporation is taking from taxpayers in order to create that job. For RFK, it's more than $230,000 in incentives per job they're creating, the vast majority of which are temporary. Do we really think the workers are getting paid this much? We could have created 2 to 4 times as many jobs with the same amount of incentives if we invested directly in local businesses or more directly owned a piece of the development. Those who have championed this failed trickle-down approach now blame tenants and poor people for the lack of creativity and vision, but there are some new ideas that I think we should take on, and that's why I'm testifying. So the case for a land bank. Our coalition is advocating for a land bank, which is a powerful tool that would address many of these structural issues and create a new tool for us as a city to develop affordably, raise revenue without raising taxes, and meet community needs without the waste of corruption in politics. A land bank would enable the district to strategically manage its existing assets and put its wealth to work. This includes vacant and blighted city-owned lands, which is why DGS is most relevant, as well as new vacant properties acquired through eminent domain or tax foreclosure or DOPA, tax liens that are currently auctioned off to the highest bidder, speculators who don't necessarily do much better than the current owners. We cannot depend solely on attracting and retaining wealthy corporations as our economic development strategy. We need to invest in these new tools that can put our existing wealth to work, just as wealthy individuals invest in their assets strategically and put them to work. A land bank, potentially combined with a public bank where we make use of our cash reserves more strategically, would allow us to leverage our collective resources to produce the community outcomes we actually need, including potentially lower interest rates and, again, more intentional development. 7 years ago, the DGS actually conducted a study on its existing vacant land about establishing a land bank, but they never made that study public. Over the past 3 years, I've asked them repeatedly to produce the study, even just a draft form, so we can understand whatever findings or whatever concerns they may have come across, especially implementation challenges. And, it is a complex policy. They've refused, claiming they're not allowed to release it. But I worry about who really killed that study and, why they wouldn't want to see it. I urge the committee to potentially subpoena DGS to produce the existing land bank study, regardless of its age or completion status, just so we have a starting place, as well as to allocate funding in this year's budget for a new comprehensive study via maybe an RFP, examining the potential for establishing land bank, DC land bank, updated numbers on the potential economic opportunity and financing structures that we could do with it, and how we can better leverage our wealth and our assets to serve community needs. We cannot continue with these strategies that have been proven ineffective, and it's time to explore innovative approaches that have been used across the country to center community wealth building and put our public assets to work for the public good. Thank you for your time, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for your thorough testimony. Next, we will hear from Mary Griffin, DC Community Wealth Builders. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi. I'll echo, I won't take too much time because Sam said most of it, but just wanted to support, I'm Mary Griffin. I'm also involved in the Community Wealth Builders Coalition. And I just wanted to echo what Sam said. There's 21 states have enabling legislation for public land banks. There's some estimates around 300 in the country that can be used effectively to consolidate public assets under unified professional transparent management, prevent speculative acquisition and neighborhood stabilization, support permanently affordable housing and community-rooted development, and we know how important that is. The land bank could also partner with community land trusts, cooperatives, mission-driven developers, and place-based nonprofits that are already addressing some of these challenges in the city. And it can become financially sustaining through revenue-producing public assets, such as leasing to local businesses that support needs such as food security, leased housing, etc., sustainable land dispositions, and long-term ground leases. This is not a new tax. It is simply better management of public assets focused on serving the needs of DC residents. And as Sam just mentioned, and I'll just echo a call for transparency and action. We ask that DGS be required to release all materials related to the 2019 land bank study. And if they're not disclosing, please let us know why. Hold a follow-up hearing specifically on public land asset management and invite experts so we can really discuss this and learn more about it. Include an RFP for a study of the land bank in the budget. This would be in addition to and to update the data from the 2019 study, so we don't duplicate, but we actually add to. And begin drafting legislation to create a DC public land bank. Please see my written testimony, but thank you for the opportunity to testify. And thank you for all the work you do representing DC and all its residents. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Valerio Johnson, president of Hillcrest Community Association. Good morning. All right, Valerio, if you can, there we go. I see you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can hear you. Good morning.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning. There I go. All right. Okay, I'm ready when you're ready to start.
All right, you may begin.
All right. Good morning, Chairwoman, members of the Council, district leadership, agency partners, and fellow residents. My name is Valerio Johnson, president of Hillcrest Community Civic Association, and a longtime Ward 7 resident and community advocate. Councilwoman George, I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to testify today and your continued service to the residents of the District of Columbia. I also want to thank the entire council, the mayor's administration, and district agencies responsible for delivering public infrastructure, community investment, and essential services across our city. This current season is one that we know how important it is to have the government aligned as we all experience in snow. The Hillcrest Community is a 40-year-old neighborhood organization with approximately 200 paid voting members. Our mission is to enhance the quality of life and prosperity of our members and the Hillcrest community. Over 4 decades, HCC has served as the recognized voice of Hillcrest residents, a trusted convener of community dialogue, and meaningful civic influence in Ward 7 and across the District of Columbia. I'm here today in support of DGS. However, I want to offer constructive feedback on public sentiment in Hillcrest and the accountability challenges residents continue to experience. The general public sentiment in Hillcrest and Ward 7 is that they're broadly supportive of development, modernization, and public infrastructure. Our community wants progress, modern infrastructure, and strong partnerships with the District of Columbia and has worked 40 years developing that. However, at the same time, public frustration has grown due to prolonged project delays, shifting completion timelines, unclear agency ownerships of setbacks, and limited visibility in decision-making responsibility. This frustration is not rooted in opposition to DGS, but rather in confusion about accountability and the pace of delivery on long-promised projects, i.e. the Hillcrest Indoor Aquatic Facility. Delayed and accountability confusion. The Hillcrest Indoor Aquatic Center has been funded for several years and was previously expected to open in the spring of 2026. The project completion timeline has now shifted closer to spring 2028, reflecting an approximately 18-month delay. Publicly cited contribution factors have included budget and cost adjustments, project redesign, and procurement changes, even though we don't have a design. Energy and stability compliance requirement recently added by the council. However, many residents do not clearly understand which agency or decision-making body bears responsibility for these delays. As a result, public frustration has often defaulted to DGS, even when the root causes may involve multiple agencies and broader budgetary decisions. This uncertainty has led some residents to question whether the project will ultimately be completed as promised. Another one, Winston Education Campus. A long-standing community concern, the Winston Education Campus in Hillcrest has been closed for more than a decade. Over time, the property has become a highly visible symbol of stalled public investment. Furthermore, it is a blighted and deteriorating eyesore, a potential public safety risk, a perceived nuisance, and a concern for youth safety and neighborhood well-being. Community members frequently express uncertainty about what entity is responsible for the future of the Winston site, whether it's DGS, DC Public Schools, Deputy Mayor for Education, or any other district agency. When responsibility is unclear, accountability becomes diluted, and community confidence continues to erode. Community engagement and leadership presence. I definitely want to thank Director Hunter, DGS staff such as Julia Jesse, Brittany Hughes, John Stokes, Sean Link, and Howard Gasway, and many others, as well as the various project representatives who have attended community meetings, I think 2 to 3 to date over the last 3 to 4 years. We could do more. However, they have provided technical updates and availed themselves to us. Their engagement is valuable and appreciated. Moreover, it is a standard. At the same time, residents have expressed a desire for more constant engagement from agency leaders and senior decision-making, particularly on projects of significant community impact. In neighborhoods where trust has been strained by delays and uncertainty, direct engagement from leadership can help strengthen transparency, credibility, and confidence. And to make this very clear, Councilmember, we haven't seen the decision makers. What residents are seeking, clear and public ownership of project delays, transparent explanation when timelines shift, consistent communication from agency leadership, defined accountability plans for long-stalled assets, visible progress on priorities, projects such as Hillcrest Indoor Aquatic Center and the Winston Education Campus. Residents want development done with Ward 7, not to Ward 7. As I close out, Ward 7 is not opposed to the project, and neither is Hillcrest. In fact, we are eager for it. We have fought for it for 4 decades. However, progress without accountability creates frustration, and frustration without answers erodes trust. If DGS is responsible for a delay, the community should be told that clearly and directly. If another agency is responsible, that should also be communicated clearly and directly. And if the Hillcrest Indoor Aquatic Facility and the Winston Education Campus are priorities, they should be treated so with urgency, transparency, and visible leadership. Hillcrest stands ready as always to partner, collaborate, and support district efforts. But our community is no longer willing to wait in silence without clarity or accountability. Councilmember, thank you for your time, your service, and your commitment to Ward 7 and the residents of the District of Columbia. And we are here to answer questions. And we do thank you for being available February 7th to speak to us about this matter.
Of course. Thank you so much. I look forward to it. And lastly, we will hear from Melissa Wires, ANC Commissioner, Single Member District 1D04. Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Melissa Wires, and I serve as the Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner for 1D04 in the community where the Amigos Park project is located. I'm here today to speak in support of the Department of General Services and the long-awaited renovation of this small but important neighborhood park. This park, while modest in size, has carried a large presence in our community. For years, many in the community have worked to make this a public park, and as its name indicates, honor the longtime presence of Hispanic residents living in Mount Pleasant. However, the space has remained in a blighted, neglected, and underutilized condition for far too long. The project to renovate this park has been stalled for many years. As with many delayed capital projects, those delays have only driven the costs higher, while the community has continued to live with a space that does not reflect the care, safety, or pride we want in our neighborhood. Amigos Park is finally moving forward. Many Mount Pleasant residents are genuinely happy to see progress at last, though disappointment lingers among members of the Amigos Park Coalition who've worked tirelessly for years to turn this space into a park. And others in the community are disappointed that the privately owned space adjacent to the park has not been secured to be part of the park. Nonetheless, many of my constituents have expressed their eagerness for the site to be transformed into a clean, safe, and welcoming public space with the regular city services that all DC parks enjoy. While I'd like to see the full space be available to the community, Mount Pleasant residents will appreciate progress being made and far better than the continued stagnation and extreme deterioration of this space. From my perspective as an ANC commissioner, I want to commend the Department of General Services for its professionalism as I've worked with them this past year. DGS has consistently kept me informed of project updates, and that transparency has allowed me to share accurate, timely information with the community I represent. That communication has been invaluable and in managing expectations and, frankly, the information that the community deserves. I also want to note that all the park designs have been publicly posted and discussed during previous community meetings. Residents have had opportunities to ask questions, raise concerns, and provide feedback. DGS has remained respectful, responsive, and clear about what is feasible, and when information is available, it has been shared. In closing, this project finally moving forward presents momentum, accountability, and a commitment to improving neighborhood quality of life. I look forward to continuing working with the Department of General Services as construction begins, and their willingness to stay engaged, professional, and transparent is important to this Pleasant community. Thank you very much for your time and the continued service to District Columbia, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you so much. State Board Rep, Mr. Goulet, I agree that students and educators should not stay in trailers longer than absolutely necessary. I'm looking forward to seeing the data on the use of trailers in DC public schools and working on a solution to pivot from the indefinite trailer use. Do you have did the State Board of Education have a sense of when, when that data would be provided around trailers? Have you all requested? Are you receiving it?
This is something that we've just started working on. So I'm guessing probably my hope would be to try to get a letter out within the month through the committee, and then to try to see, working with your committee, what we get from that. And, hopefully it shows us kind of how long trailers have been in position. I know there's been some that have been there for quite some time, some that smell musty even, and then others that aren't as bad that staff would like to continue using for like just office use, but not for educational use for our children. So we want to try to kind of give you the whole picture of what the trailer universe looks like, and then try to work to get the ones that really do need to be replaced with permanent space replaced.
Yeah, I think I went to Phelps a couple weeks ago. Was it Phelps? Yes, I believe it was. One and across the street, across from it was an elementary school, and I was like, "Is the entire elementary school in trailers?" it was just I was like, okay. So I'm curious too, just from driving around and seeing different schools utilizing whether it was temporary or permanent solution. About overcrowding, space for pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 in the by right elementary schools. I think one of the issues, because I've tried to address it, is that every time I say there's an overcrowding issue, the response is no, there isn't.
Yeah.
So there would have to be some recognition that there is an issue for us to move forward. Because that's the response that I've gotten very recently. What do you see as the overcrowding issues, and what do you see as some of the ways in which we can move towards actually addressing them?
So I'll just give you a brief answer on this, but then also kind of give a little history on it. So when we did the pre-K 4, because I worked for Vince as the council budget director when he was chairman, and we did pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds in the city, the plan was obviously to start with Title I schools and then to expand it citywide. The final step of the plan, which we haven't implemented, was if there wasn't physical space in an elementary school to add the 3 and 4 slots, that we would then expand physical space to include those. What's missing right now is that none of Ward 3 has any pre-K 3 space due to overcrowding. And I think it's hard for DCPS to argue that the schools aren't overcrowded when you don't have space to put the pre-K 3 in the schools. You have the same issue at Lafayette, which is in your ward, but then educates many students from Ward 3. And I believe Ross also has no pre-K 3 in Ward 2. There's a number of other schools where there's a wait list for pre-K 3. And now what I've liked also is, we worked together on the Birth to 3 Act when I was working with Vince Gray as chair of the Health Committee. So, and I'm glad to see, you continue to want to implement the plan that we had, which is to make sure that no one's got to pay more than 10% of their income on childcare. So what I would love to see is a citywide effort where we try to finish the universal pre-K, get that in all the by right schools, and at the same time, put forth a real push to try to finish the Birth to 3, which makes sure that no family in the city's got to pay more than 10% of income on childcare, which we know we've got to build capacity for, so it won't happen overnight. But it's a goal that we've got to keep pushing for. And I know you were supportive of that legislation and a big factor in that. And I've seen that your support continuing trying to get to the end goal, which was, the no more than 10% of income on childcare. So I think those two tie together well. And I would love to, work with you on that, in my role at the State Board of Education.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I've been telling people, I'm like, well, I've told them, I'm like, Vince Gray already started the work. Birth to 3 already started years ago. So I'm not building on anything that has already been in motion. And it's not a problem we don't have a solution for. And we gotta, continue working towards that. So I appreciate that institutional knowledge and history that most people recognize and realize.
And thank you for your advocacy on it. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I want to ask Sam, I wanted to come to you. I asked DGS for all draft materials and data in performance oversight pre-hearing questions. I expect that information to be shared this year. Being outdated is not a legally recognized basis to withhold the information, as you know, and common sense should tell us. And so we did not want to reach the space of doing a subpoena, which we also said we would be willing to do. And so our understanding is that they are preparing the draft materials. And once we have that, the committee's happy to share that towards the ultimate goal, which I think is true, right? We have to figure out how we use our land and community land trusts and building communities and doing development in a way that is community focused and not profit focused. It's critical and important.
Well, it's great to hear. Really appreciate you pushing them on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would be worth it if possible, if there's money to get kind of like to seed an actual more public process or public study in the budget, because it will take some time. This is not an easy policy, right? There's a lot of sticky questions to figure out. So hopefully we can build on that. I also wanted to say Iman Subian in our coalition, I think missed her name, but she is here.
Oh, so. She's here. Okay, great. Thank you for letting us know. Sabrina, I wanted to come to you. In the fiscal year 26 budget, I put an enhancement of about 2.2 million to the Cromell School for net zero infrastructure. Has DGS shared any information about the project being net zero?
Yes, the architects that met with the community before said that the building will be net zero. And that's why we had a concern before about the artificial turf or natural grass, which now we know that we're going to have natural grass.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, and we do have 35 million 500,000 or some odd dollars in the budget. So we haven't gotten into details about the net zero part, but we're waiting to have another community meeting so that we can talk about those details.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate the additional funds. We are so excited, and of course, DGS is going to be more forthcoming and transparent with giving the community more information that we need as far as the project is concerned. So we really appreciate your leadership on this.
Thank you. And it sounds like what you all really want some clarity on right now is just the indoor amenities. To just make sure you and the community and DGS are on the same page around what those indoor amenities will be.
Yeah, we are. I spoke with Bria, and she's going to get back with me to answer some of those questions. So they are working with us to answer our questions.
Okay, great. And we'll follow up during our government portion of the oversight hearing just to see. They have some time now between now and when they testify. So hopefully they will get you all that information back before then, so that way we can actually have some substantive answers and some things to hear back from the community if that's the vision you all also had for that space.
It is. And the cover seating is very important too, because as everyone knows, it's very hot here in Ivy City. More because it's half industrial, we have a lot of concrete here and less green space. So although that we're not going to have the 2 additional buildings on the site, we'll have more green space, which is one of the questions that we want to ask. How big is the multi-purpose field going to be?
Got it.
Are we going to have covered seating at the multi-purpose field, and all those different details?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate your continued advocacy and your continued work representing your neighbors and community as well. And so I look forward to continue to work with you as we go and finish oversight and also go into budget. Mr. Johnson, I think you said something really profound I wanted to just highlight. You said residents want development for Ward 7, not to Ward 7. And I think that is a powerful statement. Unpack that for us. What does that mean? And what would that look like as far as some of the issues that were raised around prolonged project delays, shifting completion times, and just limited visibility into what decision making is happening?
Sure, I'll do my best within the confounds of my lane here today as the representative of a community organization in one neighborhood. But having years of experience in several roles and responsibilities within Ward 7 in the city, I understand the difference between what we have been able to accomplish in Hillcrest and what other communities have been able to accomplish is this long-standing memory and activism and continuation of agendas and goals. Hillcrest has 40 years of consistent activism, pushing for transformational change, right, through the generations, right? The neighbors are really, really committed to remembering promises and partnering, right, with the government. The residents here don't just say do and disappear. They say, let's do together.
Yeah.
And so the ANCs and civic leaders and everybody just works collectively to hold government accountable to its promises. And I think that's a unique secret sauce of Hillcrest. It's not unique across the city, but it's just what we have demonstrated for the last 40 years. And so when we look at where we are, South Massachusetts Avenue, with 2 grocery stores or 2 Starbucks or some other things that other neighborhoods need in Ward 7 in particular, the long-standing fight and constant reminding the government of what is it's supposed to do, what its obligations is, what its promises are. You don't necessarily see it as consistency in some other neighborhoods. So we really depend on agency leadership. We really depend on council members, ward council members, to keep those promises, right? And shifting priorities, shifting budget priorities, like changing leadership, right? We look at where we think some of these projects fall to the gap. It's just like the transition from Gray and his help to the next Councilmember Felder, or the shift from the committee from Trayon to you, or there's a number of things. The new policy for net zero, right? That wasn't in play in the beginning. So we understand that there's these things that change, but everyday neighbors who are not involved or that into the weeds don't. They just see something that's supposed to happen, that was promised to happen, not happen. And the failure here is when leaders, direct leaders of agencies, do not come and talk to communities in their modus apparatus, where they have their community meetings, where they have their ANC meetings. That's where it gets a little disrespectful.
Yeah.
If you don't come and you don't talk to these folks, you don't talk to the residents directly.
Okay.
You're sending messengers, or you're sending press releases, or
that's right.
That's the messy part, Councilmember George. And you know this. You're very engaged. We cannot have leaders who think they cannot come address community members when there are promises on the line.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I'll be there soon. So I look forward to being in direct conversation with you all and trying to move and figure out how we move things forward and be clear in our communication around timelines, especially in setting expectations. And I know Hillcrest neighbor community to be a strong, united community. And so I think it's important that the district is transparent about what's happening and what's going on, and we can move this forward, which is ultimately the goal that residents really want. Truly. So thank you so much for your advocacy, and look forward to working with you as we go into finish oversight and go into budget season as well. I wanted to come to Melissa. The fight for Amigos Park, man.
It's a long one.
It's been a long fight, and I've been proud to support Councilmember Nadeau in fighting and continuing to fight, even when it's been delayed and deterred over the years. In previous years, the issue of DGS gaining control of the private property parcel of the land adjacent to the 3641 Mount Pleasant Street was an issue. With the current project underway, was DGS able to negotiate a long-term lease with the developer, Blake Magdal?
No, to my knowledge, no. My understanding is that section that is private property is going back to the leaseholder of that property, who is going to make that a green space, or has said he will make it a green space adjacent to the Amigos Park, but it is not part of the Amigos Park, and it's not part of the land that the city controls, is my understanding.
Okay. We just hadn't heard an update on it, and I guess, I mean, at least it'll be green space, but I think that, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, speaking from my constituents, everybody would have liked to have had the full space, and I think some people do think of this as a phase 1 project, and maybe it'll work out that way. But right now, it is only part of that land that construction is supposed to go forward, I believe, imminently in February.
Yeah. Well, as we continue to work, you know, the main thing is just continuing the conversation and the relationship between you as commissioner and DGS, and just making sure that we can finally get to a beautiful space that honors the community. And I know I'm thinking about Arturo today as we move forward, and I hope that there's going to be a way to honor him within Amigos Park, or
Yes.
some level of naming something, or whatever, you know, whatever the community thinks. I would love you all to work on the ways we can honor Arturo, because he was, you know, obviously a day one advocate for this space. So I hope that's already in the motions and the thoughts that are coming as well.
Yes, it's definitely under discussion, and particularly as construction starts and this becomes real, I think those plans will be firmer.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your service as a commissioner, and look forward to continuing to work with you all. Imani Subain, I'm going to put you on our next panel, and I'm going to thank this panel here and move to our next panel, which will start with Imani Subain, a committee member of the Community Wealth Builders, Keith Ellingsworth, Public Witness, Laura Levinson, the Energy Committee Chair at Sierra Club, District of Columbia, Susan Score, Zero Waste Committee Chair, Sierra Club, District of Columbia Chapter, William McGrath III, the Soil Less Systems LLC, and Max Broad, DC Voters for Animals. And Imani, you're up first. If I'm saying your name wrong, just please correct me. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Iman Subian, but I appreciate the effort to get it correct. So good morning, Chairperson and members of the committee. My name is Iman Subian, and I am part of the DC Community Wealth Building Coalition. It's a group dedicated to creating higher economic well-being, increasing racial equity, and changing attitudes about economic development and wealth concentration by shifting the district's development model toward community ownership, democratic governance, and locally rooted wealth. We appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. And the understanding is the district owns and manages significant public land, buildings, and facilities, and these assets are powerful tools that could be used for advancing a cooperative and solidarity economy. And too often they remain underutilized or inaccessible, especially to worker co-ops, community land trusts, social enterprises, mission-driven, community-serving organizations. So as such, we urge DGS to take a more intentional approach by one, prioritizing community serving and cooperatively owned enterprises in the disposition and leasing of public property, also strengthening the contracts and procurement divisions, policies, and practices so cooperatives and small local businesses can meaningfully compete for DGS contracts, things like right-sized contract opportunities and simplified compliance requirements and proactive outreach to those types of institutions. And most importantly, we're issuing a request. We hope that DGS will issue a request for proposals to study the creation of a district land bank for a land stewardship framework that treats public land as a shared civic resource and aligns its use with demonstrated community needs. When community-owned projects gain access to both space and procurement opportunities, the district will benefit from local job creation, wealth retention, and long-term neighborhood stability. And we think that this performance oversight is an opportunity to ask not only whether DGS is efficient, but whether it is equitable and whether its policies are helping build an economy that works for DC residents and not just outside developers. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you so much for your testimony as well. Next we will go to, I believe I see Susan. I'm trying to make sure people don't have their things on. Okay. If you're here, Keith Ellingsworth, are you here? It's because I pinned you. Sorry, that's what happened. I pinned you. Laura Levinson.
Oh, hello. This is Keith
Keith,
Ellingsworth.
Keith is here. Okay. Sorry, I pinned someone and don't know how to unpin them, so I can't see the rest of you. Let me work on it.
It was my fault. I was muted.
It's okay. You can begin your testimony.
Okay, thank you. My name is Keith Ellingsworth. I'm the owner of the Blue Ridge Cutting Board Company, and I've been a member of the Eastern Market vendor community since 2001. This will be my 26th year selling handmade cutting boards and live edge tables at the market. Eastern Market is a vibrant community, a vendor community, a residential community, a tourist community, a community of customers and vendors from around the corner and around the world. It's a place where people shop, sell, eat, hang out, come to see and be seen, a place where locals get to know the farmer ringing up their produce purchases, a place that is much more than just a stop to grab veggies or sandwiches or jewelry or artwork. It's a regular part of people's lives, their daily and weekly routines. It's a place to meet new people, a destination at the end or middle of a walk, a run, a bike ride, a place to celebrate special occasions, go on dates, plus find one-of-a-kind handcrafts, artwork, and food. One of my favorite things I've come to appreciate about Eastern Market are the conversations. Selling gives me the opportunity to chat people up in a relaxed, casual way. Recently, I've had fascinating conversations with Nathan, head of Children's National Hospital, John, Pentagon defense contractor, Jacqueline, a Smithsonian anthropologist, Capitol Hill residents, market regulars who live in buildings adjacent to my spot near the intersection of 7th Avenue and C Streets. As well as several homeless people from halfway houses who frequent the market and all their colorful and expressive ways to fill their stomachs with good food and their hearts with the warmth offered by so many in this unique community of Eastern Market. The briefest transaction can offer a surprising amount of intimacy. Details about the disparate lives of those in this DC community, Washington, DC community. The market relies on a system of support and cooperation between management, vendors, and customers. The management team at Eastern Market, Barry, Margison, Katrina, and Kevin, do an outstanding job orchestrating weekend markets, facilitating the safe and smooth arrival of dozens of vendors, making sure the proper procedures are clearly stated, understood, and followed, often going above and beyond to accommodate any reasonable specific needs of vendors or to help out in the case of emergencies, dead batteries, flat tires, etc. I can only imagine how long this list might actually be. From creating and implementing vendor maps, facilitating and overseeing setup and breakdown, to conflict resolution is an ongoing process of constant fine-tuning of procedures and rules to keep Eastern Market humming along at its best throughout the year. Barry, Katrina, and Kevin make considerable effort to get to know individual vendors, their personalities and habits, which helps to keep things running smoothly in a market of tightly packed selling spaces. Since the fire in 2007, then COVID in 2020, I've seen the market rebound and remake itself. And I would say in these recent years, it has evolved into the best version of itself since I've been at the market. One of several recent improvements is an updated vendor application process, which has evolved considerably and is carefully designed to invite dedicated artisans from every part of the world, keeping the variety and quality of offerings as high as possible. Another significant improvement is Eastern Market's social media, which has been doing a phenomenal job capturing with creativity and humor the vibrancy of the market and its many characters. Live music at the market has been sublime. A phenomenal duo, Karen and Lorenz, better known as the Frontline Duo, play a mesmerizing set list of classic jazz and standards at the corner of C and 7th Street, Saturdays and Sundays. If you haven't heard them, please come check them out. One of the many things I greatly appreciate is the effort Barry puts forth to communicate with the vendor community. Weekly emails offer updates and various issues of importance and almost always invite input and criticism from vendors. I'll close my statement by saying I believe this management team in Eastern Market does an incredible job. I know they are deeply invested in everybody's success, and to that end, put forth an impressive effort to make Eastern Market the very best it can be. Thank you to them, and thank you for inviting me to share my thoughts today.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from Laura Levinson.
Thank you. My name is Laura Levison. We have a couple of Keith's beautiful cutting boards in our kitchen. I'm the Energy Committee Chair for the DC Sierra Club, and I'm testifying on behalf of the organization today. I will discuss energy, and my colleague Susan Shore will discuss zero waste issues. On average, people spend about 90% of their time inside buildings. District residents often interact with government buildings, including schools and recreation centers, which is why it is paramount that DGS implement existing laws to make DC government buildings greener. We urge the committee to reject any new attempts to weaken or repeal the Greener Government Buildings Act, GGBA. This law requires buildings owned by our government or with significant government funding to be built or renovated to net zero energy standards. Net zero energy buildings have three main characteristics. First, they do not burn any fossil fuels on site. They are all electric and do not contain methane gas equipment for space heating, water heating, or cooking. Second, they are highly energy efficient. Third, they maximize their use of electricity from renewable energy resources. Of these three characteristics, the all-electric requirement is the most crucial. A new building with methane gas equipment will continue to burn polluting fossil fuels for decades. All-electric government buildings save taxpayer dollars since electric heat pumps are so much more efficient than methane gas equipment, 3 to 5 times more efficient for heating than gas boilers. Also, as more customers leave the gas distribution system, gas will become increasingly expensive for the customers remaining on the gas system. Last but not least, eliminating fossil fuel combustion removes harmful combustion fumes from inside the buildings, eliminates outdoor air pollution from the venting of exhaust fumes to the outdoors, and reduces carbon dioxide emissions that are causing climate change. Making our DC government buildings highly energy efficient is important as well, reducing the district's utility bills. With utility costs climbing steeply now due to a variety of reasons, including the willingness of the DC Public Utilities Commission to give Pepco and Washington Gas whatever huge rate increase they ask for, energy efficiency becomes all the more important for the stewardship of our taxpayer dollars. Efficient buildings also maintain more stable indoor air temperatures, increasing comfort and productivity. Regarding the renewable energy requirement, DGS should incorporate solar energy and ground source heat pumps into the building design whenever the space is available for those systems on site. The law calls for DGS to enter into power purchase agreements with renewable energy providers for any additional electricity needed for the building annually. But given how slow the procurement process is for solar installations for DGS, this is an area where some flexibility may need to be given by the council. We have a section in our testimony on the health and climate benefits of eliminating fossil fuels in buildings, which I hope the committee members will read. Regarding solar energy, our 2025 Sierra Club study found that the district government has the potential to install about 125 megawatts of solar PV capability on its properties. Doing so would reduce government electricity purchases from the electrical grid by about a third and reduce carbon dioxide emissions by about 50,000 tons per year. These solar installations would save district taxpayers at least $28 million per year via lower electricity costs. Unfortunately, time is running out on the federal tax credits for commercial solar installations. Due to federal legislation, which I call the One Big Ugly Bill, Solar energy systems will have to begin construction by July 4th, 2026, this year, or be placed into service by the end of 2027 to claim up to a 40% tax credit. While the district government can't directly claim these tax credits, DGS contracts with solar developers who can. We urge DGS to act quickly to contract as much solar as possible to lock in maximum electricity savings. Energy efficiency is the most cost-effective route to reducing utility bills and greenhouse gas emissions. Yet the mayor repeatedly has proposed to delay and weaken DC's building energy performance standards, BEPS, which require large existing buildings in DC to increase their energy efficiency. The DC Sierra Club strongly supports BEPS and urges the council to oppose the repeal or weakening of these important standards, including for DGS buildings. Right now, the most viable pathway for energy efficiency improvements for DGS is through energy savings performance contracts, the first of which was awarded in 2025. As energy efficiency retrofits are implemented, however, DGS also needs additional funding to include building electrification measures that will convert buildings off fossil fuels, but will not generate energy efficiency savings in the near term. We hope that this committee will consider providing those funds, if at all possible. Thank you, Councilmember Lewis George, for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. And please stay on for some questions afterwards, if you can. Next, we will hear from Susan Shore, Zero Waste Committee Chair, Sierra Club, District of Columbia.
Chairwoman Lewis George, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify at this oversight hearing on the Department of General Services. And I also wanted to say thank you for co-introducing the district bottle bill. My name is Susan Shore. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the co-chair of the Zero Waste Committee of the Sierra Club DC chapter. I'm pleased to highlight the zero waste section of the chapter's testimony. We are concerned that DGS is not complying with the district's zero waste DC plan's call to provide composting services in all public schools. DGS bears responsibility for or is a partner agency for 3 of the plan's 47 actions. Action 14 called for an ordinance on composting in all government buildings, including schools, by last year. Action 26 calls for DGS to set up zero waste hubs at or near public schools to collect compostable materials, and Action 37 to provide hands-on learning on zero waste in schools, which can only be provided if composting services are available. You'll find more details in the chapter's written testimony. Full implementation of the zero waste DC plan will reduce 1.38 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent of greenhouse gases annually. And I'm sure this is a goal that we all share. It will prevent us from needlessly sending food waste to methane emitting landfills or particulate pollution generating incinerators, which are linked to the development of asthma in children. Well, last year, DGS's responses to this committee's performance oversight hearing questions revealed that DGS only provided composting services in 5 schools that had opted into these services. The Zero Waste DC plan makes clear that composting is expected to be incorporated into the operations of all public schools and not run as an opt-in program. We request this hearing to examine whether DGS has made any progress towards this goal since last year. Our primary question is whether compost services are available in all public schools, and if not, in how many public schools do they provide compost services? We also welcome learning about any DGS efforts to develop composting ordinance, establish zero waste hubs, and whether DGS is providing hands-on zero waste education. We also ask whether DGS is seeking sufficient budget allocations in the district's fiscal year 2027 budget to meet the composting demands of the Zero Waste DC plan. Frankly, we fear that the district is moving backwards on providing composting in public schools. Since DGS's website content still reports 61 public schools opted in to collect compostable materials in 2017. With no more recent information, it seems the website hasn't been updated since 2017. We should be moving forward for the sake of our children. It's time for DGS to establish a budget line for composting in its fiscal year 2027 budget and move to providing composting services in all public schools. Opt-in composting was made obsolete by the Zero Waste DC plan. We urge DGS not to let the call for composting in public schools go unheeded for yet another year. We've seen how wildly popular DPW's residential composting services are. Let's give our children the same opportunity. Thank you, Councilmember Lewis George, for convening this hearing and for the opportunity to testify.
So thank you so much. And I am such a huge fan of composting, and wanting to get them in our schools is important. I went over to DC Bilingual, which is in Ward 5 on the border, and they have a great composting program that their school really benefits from. And so we've just seen the great impact it has had on on schools and student bodies. And it's how we teach our young people from an early age how to do this so that we create lifelong people who are focused on a zero waste world and space that we are working towards. So I couldn't agree with you more, and really excited to push DGS on getting this done because it's important. Next, we will hear from Jonathan Bloom. Don't see them. William McGrath. Okay, Max Broad, DC Voters for Animals.
Hello, Councilmember Lewis.
Max, the pups are upset about this ice. I gotta tell you.
I know. We gotta do something about it.
Do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. I'm here in support of composting at DC Public Schools. So continuing right on with the thread, as the agency responsible for supporting the rollout and implementation of composting in schools, I see Department of General Services as taking this step as being aligned with DC priorities in multiple ways. The first is the benefit to rodent management, so rats, the issue that we all like to talk about, right? And Councilmember Lewis George, thank you for introducing a really thoughtful bill on managing rats. So, any rat expert will tell you that trying to kill through a rat population is futile. They reproduce way too fast, and the population will always rebound. Instead, to stop rats, we must disrupt their access to food. Most people do not realize that food waste we throw out is so often eaten by rats, giving them the energy needed to reproduce and rapidly grow their population. That's why the coalition DC Responsible Rat Management formed, to educate our community on the need for sanitation as the central and most important method of rodent control. By providing a secure space to centralize food waste in schools, we can not only increase momentum for composting in the district, but also prevent rats from accessing the resources they seek to expand their population. I'm also the co-chair of the DC Good Food Purchasing Program, DCGFPP, a coalition of over 30 organizations in the District of Columbia, and we're committed to transforming the way public institutions purchase food to create a transparent and equitable food system. Last year, DCGFPP testified in support of reinstating funding to the Department of General Services to support composting at DC Public Schools. Managing and diverting food waste is central to DC Public Schools' efforts on values-based procurement. The Good Food Purchasing Standards specifically call for food waste audits and diversion efforts. Doing so will support DCPS in scoring higher in the annual assessment, which we love because it'll help them get better recognized in the district as amongst a national network of people and organizations promoting values-based procurement. Finally, reducing and addressing food waste is a priority for reducing climate pollution and meeting the goals of the Sustainable DC 2.0 plan. Project Drawdown, who has compiled data on the most impactful climate solutions, ranks reducing food loss and waste as the sixth most important climate solution, with the potential for avoiding 1.23 to 2.47 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent a year. How much is 1.23 to 2.47 gigatons? Well, it's a whole heck of a lot. So lastly, I just want to add that, your point about educating and inspiring students who are familiar with food waste is just so important and so valuable. So it really helps set the groundwork when DGS gets involved in schools. So thank you for your attention to this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I want to go to some questions. Laura, if I can come back to you. I really appreciate your detailed testimony. We have been working on a net zero bill to make reasonable modifications but preserve high environmental standards. As you know, it's just been extremely difficult, without saying too much. You mentioned something that is important, which is DGS should revisit guidance on solar development in the district government energy master plan to remove unnecessary barriers. Can you elaborate on what those barriers are?
Those are, I actually don't have that at my fingertips. That's from our solar, study, which I meant to reread before this hearing and didn't have time.
It's okay. We will pull it. The other thing is you mentioned that all electric is the most important standard in net zero. Could you elaborate why?
Well, as I said in my testimony, it's because DGS builds buildings to last for decades, right? So once the building is built, it's going to be in use for 30, 40 years. So that's a long time. And if the building is built with gas boilers for space heating, gas boilers for heating water, but especially for space heating, those boilers, I got one in my basement. It's going to last forever. I mean, literally, the thing's going to last forever. So if you put in that gas equipment now, it's going to be in use for 30 or 40 years. And that's just way too long. We need to transition to electricity pretty quickly to achieve our climate goals, to try to reduce climate impacts, to improve our health inside these buildings, because there's more and more evidence, as you know, that combusting gas and fossil fuels inside our buildings creates toxic fumes that we are breathing. And those are very harmful for our health. So there's a multitude of reasons why all electric is so important. Let me just add about solar barriers that it really seems like the contracting process, the procurement process is a huge barrier right now.
Mm-hmm.
We had heard, from your committee that DGS was going to issue several RFPs for solar in 2025. And if they've been issued, we haven't been able to find them in the databases or anywhere. And that is concerning, especially given the imminent expiration of these 40% tax credits. It's just, we're just leaving money on the table, or as our study says, leaving money on the roof, so to speak. Just also wanted to note, I attended a community meeting on the Rumsey Pool renovation, and the building is planned with a green roof and for stormwater management, and that's great, but there's no reason they couldn't put solar and a green roof together. So there's just places where it seems like DGS isn't thinking this, they're not thinking this through as thoroughly as they might. We do appreciate the buildings that they have built to net zero and applaud them for them.
I appreciate that. Speaking of Rumsey Pool and pools in general, while maintaining all electric requirements, are there any types of facilities other than pools where modifications to efficiency and consumption requirements should be made?
You mean, well, I'm not sure I understand your question. Is it a concern about not being able to achieve greener, net zero standards?
Yeah, like ZEPI scores. Are there some types of buildings that can't meet net zero? Because this is what it came up in our hearing we just had, maybe time is flying, a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, that ZEPI scores were brought up. And I guess, are there some types of buildings that can't meet net zero standards on energy conservation or generation?
Well, obviously, of course, I shouldn't say obviously, renovations are tougher, definitely tougher. So new buildings, no, I don't know of new buildings that can't meet net zero energy standards. If there is, they may not be able to generate, 100% of the electricity they use on site. And that, as I said, might be an area where some flexibility is needed, given that DGS can't seem to push out these power purchase agreements through their procurement process. So that would be the one area where a new building might need some leniency. but there's no reason they can't be all electric. There's no reason they can't be highly energy efficient. There's no reason, in most cases that they can't put at least some solar on their roof. And if they have space, they should definitely do geothermal, heat pumps, because the savings are really significant over time. For renovated buildings, yes, they are definitely harder. So I guess it would, but if a building's really being gutted, then, you would think that they could go all electric in that case, but there may be exceptions. There may be, historic buildings where it's more difficult, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But we know pools can be done net zero. They got one in Toronto, for Christ's sake, where it's a heck of a lot colder than it is here.
Yeah. I'm going to actually make an Ask a Sierra Club here, which is to do some more community outreach and education. I'm only asking this because we are dealing with the administration is very anti-net zero, and obviously it has been a very frustrating thing trying to maintain the fight that I promised Councilmember Che I would maintain around our greener government buildings and net zero, and I remain committed to that. What is happening now is that buildings in certain parts of the wards, like 7 and 8, are being delayed or they're changing the design, and they are basically saying it's because of net zero. And so now there is they've almost created a public discourse against net zero and greener government buildings. And the only way for us to correct that is to inform the community on the real health benefits, the real life benefits, the reason why is important, that as we move forward, we create net zero buildings. And so I know Sierra Club does a great job at real grassroots work and education. And this issue is going to continue to come up. And, what happens is council members then are like, oh, well, they said, net zero is a problem and we need to get rid of net zero. And then that's the way the community will get its recreation center or its school or its building. And so sort of making net zero the enemy of all progress has now really created I think a very harmful dialogue and communication that we have to do the work to correct. And so I'm just asking for Sierra Club to do the work that you already been doing and grassroots education around net zero in our buildings and why they're important. And really the equity issues where, we've seen net zero buildings across the city. And so to come to the areas where we already have a lot of environmental harms and racism, to come and say that they are the ones that actually can't have or shouldn't have net zero is also a real equity concern there across the board. So, we've said we will be reasonable and make modifications where modifications are needed and necessary and practicable, but also necessary. But we maintain that the future of all of us rely on us moving forward in a way where we stop burning fossil fuels and recognize the impact it has on us as a whole. So I just wanted to name that, and we'll follow up with you a little bit more on the District of Cumberland Energy Master Plan and some of those barriers as well later on.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have that at my fingertips, but I did want to note, and thank you for that. And we're certainly will continue and push harder on that education. We do have our second citizen science project underway, in which volunteers are going into homes and testing indoor air during heating season, following on our first project of testing indoor air in kitchens when gas ranges are running. And that has been, incredibly educational at the individual level. And, we're mostly volunteers, so we're limited in our reach, but we'll do the best we can.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. I totally understand. So any help you can give, I absolutely would appreciate and appreciate your advocacy. I guess Susan and Max, I'm really excited to try to get this across the board for DCPS schools. And hopefully this is one of the things we can really champion for as we go into budget season. And so appreciate your advocacy here. We'll be asking about DGS about their composting, but also if there's any funding gaps, trying to meet those funding gaps, if that's the reason. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. And again, want to see our young people learning about composting and those practices so that we can create a generation who is excited about being a part of the work that needs to happen. So thank you all so much. Really appreciate it. We're going to go to our last and final panel, which includes Ezra Hollander, Trail Ranger Program Director at Washington Area Bike Association, Cora Masters-Berry, founder, CEO of Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, Neil Flanagan, the treasurer of DC Archives Foundation, Crystal Jones-Nieves, Open Horizon Criminal Justice Fellow, Council for Court Excellence. And then we'll go to Tisha Cockrell, who's the president of Friends of Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center. If there are any witnesses who are here that did not get to testify, please raise your hand. This is our last panel, so we want to make sure we get you in before hearing. So thank you for that. Ezra Hollander, you are first up. Good morning, and thank you for your testifying.
One moment, sorry, getting my computer straight.
No problem.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Ezra Hollander, and I use he, him pronouns, and I represent the DC Trail Ranger Program, a nationally unique partnership between the Washington Area Bicyclists Association and the District Department of Transportation, established in 2013. DC Trail Rangers go out each day on electric cargo bicycles to service over 25 miles of DC-owned paved multi-use trails, taking care of infrastructure that serves as vital transportation and recreation resources for DC residents in every quadrant of the city. In fiscal year 2025, the DC Trail Rangers biked over 8,000 miles on DC trails while removing over 1,500 bags of trash and submitting over 100 requests to DC 311. The DC Trail Rangers deeply appreciate the work of the Department of General Services that they do each day to keep DC's parks, recreation centers, and other public spaces safe, clean, and in good repair. Drawing upon our years of experience biking, walking, and stewarding DC's trails and parks, the DC Trail Rangers submit the following comments. Approximately 2 years ago, the Department of General Services retired their Community Facilities Maintenance Request form. DC Trail Rangers found this online form helpful because it allowed for the submission of a wide range of issues and immediately put our team in touch with members of DGS's first team to clarify details of service requests. When DGS transitioned their maintenance reporting over to DC 311, it made reporting some issues easier and others much more difficult. The current list of DC 311 service request categories for DGS does not reflect the full range of common issues that the DC Trail Rangers encounter on a weekly basis on DC's trails and in parks. DC Trail Rangers and the trails they service would greatly benefit from the creation of additional 311 reporting categories for DGS, such as DGS overflowing trash cans. Currently, there's only an option for DGS overflowing recycling can, as well as service request options for streetlights, benches, and illegal dumping on DGS properties. When DGS responds to a service request on or near DC trails, the agency does a great job of resolving immediate safety hazards, but it is then unclear what the timeline is for the completion of more comprehensive repairs. For example, on the Marvin Gaye Trail by the corner of 46th Street Northeast and Grant Street Northeast, there is a wooden pedestrian bridge that over the past several years has developed multiple large holes in its wooden boards. DGS staff have come out to the bridge on multiple occasions and installed pieces of plywood to cover the holes and prevent community members from tripping or falling through the bridge. While these plywood patches solved the immediate safety hazard, trail rangers have not been able to determine what the timeline is for making a more permanent repair or replacing the bridge. DC Trail Rangers have also submitted many service requests to DGS over the years for broken playground equipment. Similarly, DGS staff have been quick to resolve urgent safety hazards, such as filing down a rebar rod sticking out of a broken piece of concrete at a DPR playground. But then the timeline for replacing the damaged equipment is unclear. DC Trail Rangers appreciate DGS's commitment to quickly resolving safety issues and believe that there is more work to be done to ensure additional prompt follow-up for the infrastructure issues that require larger repairs or full replacement. As a nonprofit partner of the DC government, the DC Trail Rangers interact with DC 311 on the same level as local neighbors, and our concerns are shared by the trail users we engage with on a daily basis. Finally, the DC Trail Rangers would like to take this opportunity to highlight the importance of clarifying ownership of the streetlights along the Marvin Gaye Trail in Ward 7. The lights on the Marvin Gaye Trail are frequently broken, and the DC Trail Rangers hear regularly from community members about feeling unsafe on the trail when it is poorly lit at night. When our program submits service requests for these lights to DC 311, the response we hear back from DGS and sometimes other DC agencies is that the lights are the National Park Service's responsibility. According to the maps produced by the DC government and the National Park Service, however, Marvin Gaye Park is owned and maintained by the city, and our understanding is that the lights likely therefore fall under the purview of DGS. In addition to the question of infrastructure ownership, the issue of the broken lights along the trail is compounded by the fact that unlike other trails in DC, none of these lights have a serial number or any other individually identifying label. Without an organized labeling system, it is extremely difficult to describe in a service request exactly which lights are in need of repair. As stewards of DC trails, DC Trail Rangers are committed to helping to solve long-standing maintenance questions. If we are incorrect and DGS is not the appropriate agency to handle these lights, the DC Trail Rangers would appreciate any assistance the agency can provide to help clarify ownership and resolve these urgent community concerns. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the DC Trail Rangers' experiences working alongside the Department of General Services. Our program will be hosting a series of trail audits this March in collaboration with the Trails team at the Department of Transportation, and representatives from DGS have been invited to attend. We hope that DGS staff will be able to join these trail inspections to continue working on how to ensure that service requests in every corner of the city are resolved as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Cora Masters-Berry, our founder and CEO of the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center and the Recreation Wishlist Committee. Good morning.
Good morning. How is everything?
You know, trying to get through this snowstorm.
Tell me about it. I haven't left my house in 3 days, but I'm still working. And as you can see, and it just really is great. It's really good, Chairperson George Lewis George, Janeese, members of the council, and distinguished guests. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, something that I do not like doing. But sometime I'm moved and things are important enough that I think the city should hear from someone who has a good report. For the record, I'm Cora Masters-Berry, former First Lady of Washington, D.C., founder of the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, and founder and CEO of the Recreation Wishlist Committee. And by the way, as an add, this year, 2026, we will be celebrating 25 years of the Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, 30 years of the founding of the Recreation Wishlist Committee out of my husband's inaugural funds, and to the topic of today, cutting the ribbon on an expansion in 2026. So I'm excited about this year. It's a milestone year for us. And as a result of that, I've been in communication and partnership. We have been with DGS, and I'm honored to appear before you in strong support of the Department of General Services and its ongoing work at SCTLC in Ward 8. It's an institution that holds deep personal and civic meaning to me and to many of the people in the city. The Southeast Tennis and Learning Center is more than a facility. It's a place of education, opportunity, discipline, community, and aspiration. And for over 25 years, it has served our residents, particularly our youth, as a space to grow, not only as athletes, but as confident, engaged young people whose trajectory have changed, and many of the young people, over 300, have gone to college on a tennis scholarship. Their parents haven't had to pay 1 penny of tuition because of the work that we've put in with these young people. I take immense pride in this center and in what it represents to the district. Today, I'm especially pleased to speak about the expansion project currently underway, thanks to our mayor and our city council, Ms. Janeese, and all of you who have supported us. I thank you so much. The Southeast Tennis and Learning Center, this project will elevate the center for a new level. The expansion will be hosting for the first time in the District of Columbia national and international junior tennis tournaments, meaning that young people will come from all over the world, not only to Washington, D.C., but to Ward 8. And while also expanding the capacity for broader community and programming and activities along with that, this is exactly the kind of thoughtful, visionary, future-focused investment our city needs, one that blends global opportunities and local impact. I want to commend the Department of General Services for the progress made. It hasn't been easy. We've had some bumps and we've had some trials and tribulations, and to be honest, we've had some haters. But the department has demonstrated responsiveness, professionalism, and a genuine commitment to getting this right, not just on paper, but in practice. And that's not an easy thing to do. I also want to highlight the DGS work order system, which has been traditionally a problem for us at SCTLC. We put in an order, it just sits there. It's called put in a ticket. Things don't get repaired, things don't get fixed. But under this last administration, under Mr. Delano Hunter, DJ's work order has become an effective tool for identifying and addressing facility concerns. Like any system, its success depends on proper use and a clear understanding of how requests are processed. When used correctly, it works, and it works well. I have seen firsthand how this system helps address facility issues and issues that are appropriately assessed and completed, depending on funding, manpower, and of course, parts availability, contributing to a safer, better maintained facility. And if anybody in the audience has ever been to the Southeast at Tennyson Learning Center, you know we take great pride in how the center is maintained. Equally important has been the responsiveness of the DGS staff, which I have been very pleased with. I have been consistently impressed by the timelines and engagement of the Director Hunter. He's one of the best directors I've ever worked with. Associate Director John Stokes, who is just a mainstay in the District of Columbia government, and the facility manager, Sean Roberts. She has been very responsive. And of course, just in general, the project team for the expansion. Their accessibility, follow through, transparency, and willingness to communicate clearly has made a meaningful difference. That level of leadership and coordination builds trust. And trust is essential in projects of this scale. In closing, I want to be clear. The Department of General Services is demonstrating what effective public service can look like. The expansion project is not just about bricks and mortar, it's about vision, accountability, and community legacy. I am confident that when completed, SCTLC South, yay, will stand as a point of pride for the district, welcoming young athletes from around the world while continuing to serve our residents at home and in our community. Thank you for your time, Chairperson, for your oversight, and for your continued support of the Department of General Service and work they do for the people of DC. And thank you for what you do for the Southeast Tennyson Learning Center.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Neil Flanagan, the Treasurer of DC Archives Foundation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairwoman Lewis George, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. My name is Neil Flanagan. Let me get you a little better view on that. I'm an architect and public historian speaking today as the treasurer of the DC Archives Foundation, a 501c3 organization that provides philanthropic support to the District of Columbia's most important and comprehensive historical resource. Our request for today is relatively simple. We would like an update from DGS on the construction progress for the DC Archives. Last year, Councilwoman, you may remember, was an eventful one for this project. In response to the budget crisis precipitated at the federal level, the executive proposed a drastic cut to the project's appropriations. This would have undone the work of over a decade of effort to at last treat the district's documentary heritage with the respect it deserves. We are profoundly grateful that the council saw the imprudence of this plan and instead committed to fully fund the carefully considered, fully designed, and fully entitled project, admittedly at a later date. The council likewise appropriated $2 million to stabilize the current deteriorating Naylor Court building. During this period, we had several productive meetings. Most helpful was a frank discussion with DGS Director Delano Hunter and Capital Projects Manager Alam Al-Alami. Since then, the mayor likewise recommitted to the project, moving nearly $1 million of capital funding from FY 2025 to accelerate preparatory work on on the campus of the University District of Columbia. This work entails the repair and reinforcement of parking structures that extends under all of UDC so that it can be adaptively reused as a plinth for the new landmark cultural facility. However, we became aware of a significant complication with the project. When the construction manager at risk contract was awarded last year, roughly $30 million, 2 years ago rather, roughly $30 million was disbursed to the contractor who has remained mobilized on site despite the pause in the work. Unless the budget allocation for the project are moved forward to FY 2027, they may have to do so for another year, expending overhead with no work done. DGS indicated that they were going to work with the construction manager, Gilbane, to spend that manager effectively, purchasing complex items that can take years to deliver, such as HVAC equipment, shelving, curtain wall systems, etc. While the delay is not a particularly efficient way to deliver a project, we ultimately want to find the most effective way to deliver it. So our testimony today is therefore to request that you ask DGS for an update on the progress of the construction to support the DC archives. Specifically, what is the current timeline for reinforcement, structural demolition, and primary construction of the new archives facility? How is Gilbane spending its awarded funds before full appropriations can be issued? And how can the council ensure the project proceeds as efficiently as possible? Finally, what improvements are planned for the Naylor Court facility and when will they begin? Again, we are pleased with the direction of the project. Now we ask this committee to hold DGS to the efficient and speedy implementation of this transformative investment in DC's heritage. Thank you again for your time and attention now over the past 3 years.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Crystal Jones Nieves, the Open Horizon Criminal Justice Fellow for the Council for Court Excellence.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm ready whenever you are.
You may begin your testimony.
Thank you, Chairwoman Lewis George and members of the committee for the opportunity to present this testimony. My name is Crystal Jones Nieves, and I am the Criminal Justice Open Horizon Fellow for the Council for Court Excellence. Most of my testimony concerns the jail, but I have also touched on issues regarding central cell blocks conditions in my written testimony. DOC and DGS are jointly responsible when it comes to distribution of maintenance responsibilities for the DC jail. In the past, DGS has been in charge of mold remediation, the majority of electrical services, and HVAC services. Still, DC jail residents have continued to bear unsafe and unsanitary conditions. I'm going to cover 3 main topics today: mold, temperature, and community involvement in jail planning. But I encourage you to review the full audit report for more information. Further, we are happy to brief this committee on issues related to the jail in more detail if that is of interest. In May 2025, CCE released an audit on behalf of the Office of the District of Columbia's Auditor entitled Urgent Need for New DC Jail. CCE took an in-depth look at the conditions in the jail between July 1st and June 30th, 2024. The auditor's report found that the chronic poor conditions that were documented in the auditor's 2019 audit persisted, with roughly 1,600 maintenance reports submitted, based on DOC's own internal records. One particularly concerning finding from the audit period was the prevalence of mold within the jail. CCE's review of official inspection reports showed that mold was found in 60% of the 72 mold inspections conducted during the audit period. In at least 2 cases, abatement was not conducted for over 8 months. Mold has been a persistent issue in the DC jail that continues today. This past year, CIC inspectors themselves were the ones who discovered mold in certain cells in CDF, leading to residents being moved to other cells. Consistent mold exposure threatens the health of both jail residents and DOC staff, with serious side effects like exacerbating pre-existing conditions, headaches, sore throats, mental health issues, and effects on the immune system. DGS is also responsible for the maintenance of the HVAC system in the DC jail. This has also struggled to maintain consistent and healthy temperatures. CCE's review of grievances found that one top resident complaint were references to the facilities being too hot, leading to an inability to sleep and worsening pre-existing conditions. We were glad to see in the FY 2026 performance plan for DGS that preventative maintenance on HVAC systems for non-DCPS locations were to be completed before September 30th, 2026. We would hope that the HVAC systems in the DOC facilities would be prioritized. DOC facilities are some of the only facilities that house individuals. It is imperative that the maintenance on the HVAC system in DOC facilities is completed before the summer heat arrives. We are also incredibly grateful to DGS for being involved in the planning and creation of the new DC jail, set to provide modernized facility that centers successful rehabilitation and reentry. CCE recommended in our audit that the new facility will have an HVAC system that will be adequate not just on day one, but in the years ahead. It is our hope that with the implementation of new and innovative techniques, DGS will be able to better maintain the HVAC system, creating a better living environment and protecting the health of all DC jail residents. In addition to the findings of the 2025 audit, CCE has also recommended the creation of a Community Advisory Board, or CAB, that would provide greater transparency and community participation in the planning process for a new jail. In an email to this committee, DGS stated that the administration has no intention of creating such a board. We highly recommend the CAB be required by the council and created early in the planning process with any future architects and developers. We would also note that administration often cites their public presentations as evidence of community involvement. Unfortunately, an information session has not been held in many months. When they were consistently held, there were often insufficient notice, leading to a lack of community input and no meaningful opportunity to provide feedback. At the very least, CCE believes that more frequent and collaborative community sessions should be held moving forward. In closing, while we appreciate the work that DGS has already done and plans to do, CCE believes that maintenance issues should be addressed in a more timely fashion, with more preventative measures in order to protect both jail residents and those who work there. Indeed, one of, if not the, most serious powers our government holds is the detention of people charged with or convicted of crimes. And with the great power to control somebody's body comes to a great duty to provide safe and humane conditions at all times, even when expensive, inconvenient, or difficult. Thank you for your continued interest and oversight, and please know we will be happy to assist you in the council in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. Ezra, as a Trail Ranger program, which trails you cover all trails that are within the District of Columbia?
Not exactly. We cover all trails that are owned and operated by the city. So not Rock Creek Park or the C&O Canal, but the Met Branch Trail, Oxen Run Park, Marvin Gaye Park, Anacostia River Trail has sort of a long-term maintenance agreement with the National Park Service. So that's a little bit different.
A little bit different. Okay, got it. That's what I wanted to make sure sort of how that was separated. Ward 4 just finally got the last end of our Metro Branch Trail, so we're very excited and happy about that. Wanted to ask you, as far as trails go, what trails do we need to go back to as a city and really, I know Metro Branch Trail is like this new shiny new trail, but we have a lot of other ones that have been here for a while, but need a lot more attention and maintenance work. What should we be doing as a city to recognize those trails and do the necessary repairs and safety enhancements to those trails?
Yeah, I think what first comes to mind is that there is a real challenge of determining land ownership and infrastructure responsibility. And so that makes it very difficult to take advantage of the current maintenance reporting systems that the city does have in place. Once again, when we are able to get an issue correctly assigned to DGS, they're prompt in their response. It's not always to the extent that we would like, but there is a response. There's a recognition that the issues we're identifying are a concern, but it is often too difficult to find the right person. Or sometimes we believe we have found the right person, but the individual staff person we were talking to at the agency, we're not in agreement there. And so I think it can be very confusing, especially for trails and large parks in the city that cover a lot of ground. It's possible that trash cans in one part of a facility are DGS, but in other parts it's DPW. And so it can get very confusing. So I want to just express that we understand that it is a challenge for agency staff also to keep track of exactly what is their responsibility, because they have a wide range of responsibilities throughout the city. Yeah, so I think that's my biggest point with DGS, that sometimes it feels like, not out of malice, but out of like genuine confusion. People
Yep.
say, that's not on me, that's not
Right.
our agency's
Yep.
responsibility.
Yep.
And that very well may be true. And I think what we're looking for is additional support from our agency partners to say, okay, if it's not yours, can you help us figure out whose it is?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
That makes sense. So we really, I mean, we've been talking about this in other hearings with other issues, but for example, our forested lands is another area that's a gray area. All of the forested parks in the city where we don't have delineation of roles, and that creates more issues. And we have amazing public volunteers who want to do and help and support, but don't know who to go to. And so it sounds like two things that would be helpful is a real delineation of roles amongst the agency, a dedicated staff person who is specified to at least being the point of contact for Trail Ranger program, and being able to communicate what those different roles are. And then there's some highlighted issues at some of our trails that, like more lighting and cleanup and support that would be helpful across the board. Do I have that correct summary?
Yeah, I think that's correct. And that, once again, when there is uncertainty about ownership, it makes it very difficult to try to hold responsible staff accountable. Even if folks want to be held accountable, if they don't know it's their responsibility, then how are they going to push internally for those changes to be made?
Absolutely. I know Tisha Cockrell's here and she needs to go now before she has to leave. So I want to give her an opportunity to testify. Thank you, Ezra. I have a few more questions if everyone else who is here can stay on. I want to give Tisha the opportunity to testify before she has to go back to work.
Hello, council member and chair Janeese Lewis George. Thank you very much for your accommodation. I've been a busy bird today. So my name is Tisha Cockrell, and I'm the president of the Friends of Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center. We are here to discuss the DC Department of General Services. We have worked together with several site directors and the ever-changing staff at our community Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center. Per our previous testimony since 2019 to present, via the Committee of Facilities Performance and Budget hearings, we wish to continue our plea to receive funds and assistance with site maintenance, repairs, additions, and new ticket items. Some of our requests have been rectified, such as lighting, camera placement, etc., and for that, we, as usual, want to thank you. However, many items remain pending or incomplete. So we've recently participated in several calls, meetings, and discussions with the Department of General Services. The problem remains with our questions about work orders. In my last meeting with DGS, we were given a lesson around how work orders are entered and processed. However, the question still stands regarding where these requests are in the pipeline. Riggs LaSalle Community Center employees tout having submitted work orders, yet DGS claims they do not see them in their system. So I'm going to mention a few items on our list of recreation center requests by DGS raised by our community and mentioned in our last testimony that are still believed to be open ticket items. So I highlighted them in yellow in my written testimony that I submitted to you guys. So enhanced security of the outdoor restrooms. We're trying to find out, did we replace doors that don't lock, or have bathrooms been locked and are now out of use to the public? The outside 2 restroom locks are broken, and a ticket was submitted in October 2023. DGS says only 1 has been completed. So we're trying to figure out, is that reportedly completed? We need clarity. The other incident, and those are the outdoor restrooms on the field, by the way. Our other issue is the outdoor splash park. So far, it looks to be completed, but I just wanted to be sure that this was an ongoing progress where do they need to consistently check the water pressure? Is it a done deal? Is it actually been serviced or replaced? I need some clarity on that. In regards to indoor issues, we are still trying to get the outdoor entrance door on the Nicholson Street side replaced or repaired. I will hopefully testify with ODR as well, because I believe it may be an ODR issue, but it needs to be ADA compliant. It's currently not in compliance. We need repair and upgrade of the door. We've contacted several departments. DGS says it's an ODR issue, and I just wanted to be sure that was the case. We would like a repainting of the building's interior. A ticket was submitted. We have no record of it, and we want to know if this action is in progress. There was a request to add a mural to the lobby. That status is completely unknown. We'd like repair or replacement of the windows in the multipurpose room. No information on that. The window located in the exercise room will not shut if open and needs to be repaired. We were told DGS is responsible. Also, the computer room, senior room, and multipurpose room, and the arts and crafts room needs new blinds. They look terrible. They've been there for years. We'd like to have installed some new window shades instead of aluminum blinds. We were told DGS is responsible for that. We would like to know what the status is of the gym floor being resurfaced. We've asked for that for quite some time, and DGS is responsible. And I believe that is it. And so while we're primarily thankful for some of the assistance given to help us rectify and maintain our community center, we had a hope to keep momentum going, but instead progress seems to have significantly slowed down. And we're looking for some answers to these questions. That's it for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your advocacy and support. Ms. Cora Masters-Berry, I wanted to come to you and give you the opportunity to talk about the ways in which I know that the Tennis and Learning Center obviously is a district-wide resource, which is intended for residents across the district. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about how the Tennis Center serves residents specifically in Ward 8 and what that benefit is to the Ward 8 community.
Okay, I'm going to try to be very succinct. I've taught political science for 22 years, and as a teacher, I tend to have context and a lot of words. I'm just trying to just say, I built the center with the sense of providing a place for young people to come and learn not only a sport, because I don't believe in handing a ball or a racket to a kid and not putting a book in the other's hand. So we made it the Tennis and Learning Center. So the tennis program has been very successful down through the years up until the last couple of years, and we have resulted, and many of the kids from Ward 8, and I said it before, have gone to college with not one penny tuition on tennis scholarships. None of them have come out being great tennis players, but that wasn't the goal. The goal was to be great players on the court of life. And they're doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, and all of those good things. And then the educational component is transformative. You have attended our Blacks on Wax programs. And so what it does is not only provide the children with a place to come to be in safe environments and enriching environments, but it changes the trajectory more so and in different ways than other recreation centers. They are wonderful and they are very valuable. Kids come in, they play ball, they have a good time, and they leave. But we have like a mini school. So when you come in, not only are you going to do tennis, but you're going to do coding, you're going to do sewing, you're going to do homework assistance. And at some point, you're going to do Blacks and Wax, whether you want to or not. And by the time they get off the stage at Duke Ellington and used to be the Kennedy Center, they've changed their lives. So this is our 25th year, and I'm excited about it. And the expansion program that is there. I fought for about 15 years. The United States Tennis Association is an organization that rules tennis in the country and in many places the world. It's a white sport and an elitist sport, and the advent of Venus and Serena coming in really broke down a lot of barriers. But the barriers of where kids could go, where they could play in tournaments. Our kids, our Black kids, our kids in underserved communities didn't get those opportunities. So we've been opening doors, and a lot of people who are listening to me don't know anything about tennis, but know this, that Black kids come from Ward 8 have gone all over this country and have won tournaments. They have represented us well, and they feel good about themselves. So I just want you to know that in Ward 8, there's a facility that appeals to the whole world, and that the people who are leading the pride of that are our Ward 8 families and our Ward 8 kids. However, every child in the District of Columbia is welcome, And when we have tennis in the summer, we have kids from all over the place because in the summer parents can get their kids there. And we have a program that I particularly want to talk about really quickly is our what we call Tiny Tots. And I've already warned you that when the little one gets to a certain age, when she gets 2.5, 3 years old, they got to come over and get in our Tiny Tot program, which deals with kids from 3 to 6. So that's a little bit, but we are a different kind of a center. We focus on education as much as we do sports.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that thorough response in speaking to the ways in which the entire community benefits, but really the young people and families in Ward 8 who've been able to grow and thrive as a result of the learning and coaching and just see the world in a different way, which has really been transformative. And I know the Blacks and Wax, I am still trying to convince you to continue it on.
This is our last year, 20th.
No. 25 more years is my ask.
But guess what the theme is this year?
What's the theme this year?
DC.
Okay, this is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun.
This is gonna be good. That will be great. Well, thank you so much. The expansion is happening right now.
Yes. And if they're supposed to finish it in June or April, but we're not going to do the ribbon cutting and the ceremony till the fall. Okay. Because we want to celebrate all of those three things together, the 25 years, the 30 years and all. But I will be letting you know because I definitely want you to be a part of it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for all that you've done and all your advocacy. And we continue to be really proud of the Tennis and Learning Center and its rich and beautiful legacy here in DC. Neil Flanagan, I want to come to you. Thank you as always for your input on the archives. I asked DGS for more information about the archives in our pre-hearing questions. We'll make sure you get those when we get them. I know DGS is listening, so I'll just give them a nice month's notice that the 3 questions posed in your testimony will be asked during the hearing in the hopes that they will be prepared to answer them. You did mention a 30 million for the construction manager at construction manager at risk. Am I saying that right? Okay. Was that just for fiscal year 26, or will an additional 30 million be needed if the project remains paused through fiscal year 27?
I think that's actually in fiscal year 25. So
Okay.
this is a little complicated. So, and I would some clarity on this would also be helpful from DGS, what exactly happened, because I have notes, but they're not as certain as I thought they were. But when you award when they awarded the construction manager at risk contract, so don't worry about the at risk. It's just that's a question about liability. But the construction manager is generally a certain portion of the contract is awarded in a lump sum at the beginning of the project. And that is, to pay for the first phase of the project, right? They're getting paid for some of the work. And my understanding is that is just fully committed to them, and that DGS, when we had a good conversation with them, said that they were going to try and purchase things with it. But it is a contracting issue as I understand it, rather than anything with appropriations. So I think some clarity on exactly what had happened would also, of course, be helpful.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we will get some of that clarity and some of those answers as we try to move forward in supporting our archives and all that it should be and could have been. So yes,
we're gonna get there. Let's just get there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman.
Thank you. You keep me motivated in it. It's been devastating blows, but let's continue. We will continue the fight.
All right, great. Thank you. I'm glad you keep me motivated. All
right. Crystal, I just wanted to come to you. Thank you for your detailed testimony outlining the severe and ongoing facilities issues at DC Jail and Central Block Cell. You talked about the high volume issues and work orders. We often see in sort of like DCPS and DPR facilities that work orders can pile up because they stay open for long periods of time, or work orders get closed without the issue being resolved, and a new one has to be made, or a work order is completed, but underlying issues are not addressed. And so the same problem keeps coming up. What did CCE's audit find regarding timeliness of work orders? And do any of those situations generally describe why there are so many work orders?
I would say a little bit of all of those kind of describe why there are so many work orders. Particularly with the mold, I would say the vast majority of them were handled in a somewhat timely manner. I want to say within 2 days to a week, but there were cases of them, some of them just going on for months and months. When it's to the other work orders, the priority one work orders are those who
all my old pants.
show who have the most risk for health and safety for individuals, and those would also sometimes take a long time to be handled as well, and would really be reoccurring. For example, when it comes to
Message on you this morning. I just got finished talking to one of my mentors.
um,
And she just brought up something that I wasn't really thinking about. We were talking about this whole DDOT situation, the whole bike lane situation, the whole bus lane.
Sorry, somebody's not muted. Okay.
Problem.
Thank
What was I?
problem. Keep
The
going.
whole HVAC situation as well. The heat has been something that's been consistently talked about in work orders and grievances as well. Same thing with a lot of plumbing issues and electrical issues. When we're talking about electrical issues, I'm talking about like exposed wires in the showers and things of that sort. Or when it comes to plumbing issues, even there were some cells that didn't have toilets, and things of that sort. I can definitely get you a more in-depth answer, if you'd like, from our audit report.
One of my last year, I think the committee was contacted about it was shower temperatures, that it was too hot, and residents were being burned and needed medical assistance. And when we reached out, DGS and DOC, they really had no record of like complaints of the high temperatures or work orders to fix the problem, nor like any medical records of burns or anything. So I do you think DOC and DGS make clear to residents how to report facilities issues, and how do they do so, and can those processes be improved?
Yeah, so the grievance process at DOC is particularly complicated. There's multiple steps, and a lot of issues can be considered non-grievable. So while even though that they're submitted, for example, you can't submit a grievance for a large number of people. You can only submit, so if you say everyone in the sub block is hot, or for example, that would be considered non-grievable because you're not talking about just yourself. So there's a very complicated grievance problems. There's also been issues in a report found that the grievance forms weren't even in the areas that they needed to be. And if they were there were no pencils for them to fill them out.
Gotcha.
So when I'm talking about those 1,600 maintenance requests, those are the only ones that were properly submitted. We have no idea the ones that were going to be submitted, but there weren't pencils, so they couldn't submit them, or they didn't have the right form. That's another thing. A whole bunch of grievances can be submitted, but if it's not the correct form, it never gets addressed. And a lot of times they're also denied if you keep putting repeated grievances for the same thing, but a lot of the time they're not repeated. It's just the issue was fixed and then it came up again.
Yeah. And does CCE find that even after you make it through this very cumbersome and complicated and process, that it still takes a long time for the work order to be created, or are work orders created relatively quickly, and the delay is more often with the closing of the work order?
That's a great question. I can't remember off the top of my head. I do know that it really depends on the type of work order it is, and how quickly the issue can be addressed. But there has been a sincere delay on fixing these issues. And just from the grievances in general, it can take weeks for them to even be addressed.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I want to reach out. I think we were scheduling a time to go come back over there for facilities tour. And so we'll try to coordinate with the Council for Court Excellence around that.
Yeah, we would love that. And there's so much more information in our report that I'm happy. As I said in my testimony, we're happy to do a briefing on that. There's so many issues and so little brain space, right? So I did my best to answer all of your questions. But for anything else that you would like to know, I am so happy to follow up and give you that information that we have in our report.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Of course. You have a great day.
You too. And last, Tish, I want to come to you if you're still here. I know you're working hard. I want to thank you for your comprehensive review of the outstanding facility issues at Riggs LaSalle. And we are looking forward to DGS providing updates by their government witness hearing. You mentioned that the issue of DPR saying a work order was entered, but DPR saying a work order was entered, but DGS says they aren't there. What have DGS and DPR said are the reasons for this? As someone who reports issues to both agencies, what do you think is exactly going on there?
So thank you for that question. And that is the crux of the situation. Just like the young lady before me was touting, there's so much confusion in the process, and it feels like CYA on both ends. So for instance, in the training we received via DGS, the statement was made that you could see, that the public has the ability to see work orders from their website to the public, that you can go in and see work orders. A member of your team and I sat down and tried to do that, and we only found like 3 or 4 of them. Then it was said in their next training in DGS's next training, that every order doesn't get approved. So I asked the question in that training, what dictates an work order from not getting approved? And it was a lot of, how can I say, there were a lot of answers that still didn't make a lot of sense. It seems like common sense is missing from this process, and they're always asking a volunteer for a work order number, never the employee at DPR. They submitted the work order, they have it. But then again, they don't see it because for whatever reason, maybe it wasn't approved to move further to the next process. Or like the young lady was saying, that things get opened and closed and then it's gone. I apparently believe it's gone, but it was closed and the work wasn't completed. It's just a hodgepodge of what happened. And no one can answer. I requested for the ANC to try to schedule a meeting with DPR employees and someone from DGS and our folks at DPR on the corporate side in the offices, and nobody wanted to do that. They wanted to speak separately to us, and it didn't make sense because, again, I'm a volunteer. I can't regurgitate verbatim what the DPR workers have lamented that they've been doing that they don't see, and I don't know what I'm looking for in that website that they provided if the work order that the DPR worker said they submitted wasn't accepted. Am I making sense?
Yeah, no, you're making sense. It just sounds so,
it's convoluted
and complicated. I'm wondering if the dashboard would help, but it sounds like the dashboard doesn't really tell if there's a work order because the descriptions are really not updated. And so I didn't know if have you all been able to utilize it? Has the dashboard been helpful anyway? Is there a way we can improve the DPR the dashboard to help clear up some of the confusion?
So when you had the visits in the communities with Riggs Park, and we sat down in the multi-purpose room and looked over the dashboard, there were about 3 or 4 items in there that was on my list, but there's way more than that. And even they were kind of vague in their description. And I'm just trying to figure out, it would be so much better if the workers and a member of DGS could sit down with us and let's just go through, why do they have the titles they have? Why do they have the descriptions they have? Why aren't the other work orders listed there? What happened to them? Were they not accepted? Why? Like those kinds of questions in real time.
That makes sense. Because we have to figure out. I mean, it sounds like the system is just.
Yeah, they understand it. There's a book called Made to Stick, and there's a chapter, Suffering from the Disease of Knowing. They understand it, but they can't explain it.
We definitely got to clear it up, because it's like, I don't know if it's unsustainable, and extremely frustrating for advocates like yourself, or who are trying to get things done. Just some level of transparency and follow through will go a long way. All right. Well, they have until March
3rd. I remember that date.
We gave them significant time between now and their hearing, and to answer witnesses' questions and have those prepared, so there will be no excuse for them not to have answers to those questions.
Right.
So we're looking forward to that. So let me remind, we're going to conclude today's public witness portion of the performance oversight hearing for the Department of General Services. DGS responses committee's pre-oversight questions are expected on Friday, February 13th. And so those will be uploaded, and maybe some of those questions will actually be answered when they upload their responses on Friday, February 13th, which will be available in the council's hearing management system. Again, the final deadline to submit written testimony for the record is 5 p.m. on Thursday, March 19th, but please do so before the government witness hearing on Thursday, March 3rd, so that we can ask DGS directly questions that were presented today through public witness testimony, and that will be submitted through public testimony to the hearing management system. Remember, you can do so. You can upload your testimony to the council's hearing management system, or you can email facilities@dccouncil.gov, and we will upload it to the council's hearing management system. With that, the time is 12:30 p.m. And this hearing is adjourned. Stay warm and stay safe. Thanks, everyone.